It's not. There we go. We're live. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Welcome to Satan's Basement, also known as Streamlabs. And I'm your host, Rob. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Carson Whitlock.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
And
I have an Arizona iced tea.
Oh, excellent.
Ooh.
But did it come from the meat dimension? Or...
Yes.
Yes. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Goodness.
Now I understand.
I also have some gifts for the meat dimension. That I collected from Cake or Death, actually.
Are you just going to throw it over your shoulder?
So 3 of my opponents actually gave me gifts during my game.
Oh, very nice.
Which was really cool. I'll go in order. The first gift that I got was this cute little rat from the Skaven player.
Yeah.
There was a rat gummy as well, but I ate it already. And and a bunch of rat stickers that are around stuck in the meat walls. The second one that I got was this actually, that was already the wrong order. So I got this Age of Sigmar mug, which was very kind. I met Romator and Damon, and both of them are very nice people, and they gave me this mug, and there was a paint that was inside, but I've already drunk coffee out of this, so that's why it's not in there anymore. And I also got a murder chicken.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like a cockatrice?
Otherwise known as, like a cockatrice.
Oh, cool.
My second game opponent gave it to me after the tournament was done, which was really cool. So thank you, Tanner. And and also I exchanged a lot of dice and whatnot, but yeah, that was fun. So I throw those into the meat dimension and they become part of it.
Excellent. Be careful with the cockatrice. And with us again is Matthias.
That's me.
Yay!
I decided right this moment how to look into how to change my background. Ooh, okay, look at that.
Nice.
I want a meat dimension. I want some kind of dimension. I'm gonna figure it out over the course of this.
Yeah, you just like download a picture
video
of whatever you like, and then you can go from there. So this week we are talking about the Battlescroll update. It's finally here.
Finally.
Oh my god. Like we always look forward to these things, but this one, like the hype was real because it just kept not coming. They used to always come in like December, right? And then we're like, okay, now I think last year it was like early January, if I remember right. But now we're into February, and anyway, it's very exciting. So there's a lot of changes. We're going to talk about them all. But first, did you guys see the rumor engine? Nope.
Yes.
It is up on the screen right now. It's a good one. I like it. It's one of those ones where you can kind of like look at it and kind of, try and figure it out.
Is that symbol something that we've seen before? Because I saw some people on the Reddit were saying that it's like Beasts of Chaos for some reason.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I don't know their like symbology and whatnot very much, but
neither do I. I assume they just used like regular stones and peed on them instead of putting symbols on. But
exactly. I was like, like whenever you see a tree, you kind of think Sylvaneth, but I think it's like too. I don't know. It like with the skull there, the skull fetish thing. I think it's kind of got more of a chaosy vibe for sure. So
skull fetish, jeez.
Not like corn people, but like
like OBR.
Yeah, that's true. OBR. Actually, like GW in general.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna guess Nurgle because it's got
the power button.
Yes. By the way, so we were like a minute late. I'm sorry. It kicked me out of Streamlabs, and But the great thing is that now that Carson is using Streamlabs as well, and he's also streaming from his account or from from the account or whatever, I have someone to commiserate with when how awful, how truly awful this program is.
What are you talking about? It's been a breeze for me.
Shut up, you! The first time you went to stream it, you're like, oh my god, this thing is the worst. And you just started complaining. I was like, yes, finally someone. Also, I did yes, finally. Thank you, Matthias. Jeez.
There we go. I'm learning.
It took forever. But thanks everyone for joining us too. We kind of got right into it because there was like all sorts of, once it doesn't matter. You guys don't need to hear all about all of my frustrations, but I never let the hamsters out for the record, Bahamut. They're always inside. Okay. So we talked about the rumor engine. And there was no real other news that I saw of any pertinent value. Am I missing something though? I did not have time.
Not that I know of.
Okay, cool. I took my son to have blood work today, and he was a champ about it, but it pushed everything back, and so it's just a little bit later than I wanted to be. So yeah, picked up Usharan this weekend. You guys had the tournament this weekend, so a lot going on. But yeah. Anyway, and I put Usharan together, and he is like, mwah! Like, not only is he one of the coolest models they've ever made, like straight up, but he's actually like a breeze to put together. The instructions weren't great, nice. But yeah. So, should we just go on to the battle scroll?
Let's do it.
Why the heck not?
Exactly.
Let's not make people wait like they did.
Well, yeah. Shots fired. Oof. Okay. He's not wrong though, ladies and gentlemen. He's not wrong. So we've got, okay, so let's do that. Boop, 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 ba-doop, boop. Is this the right? Nope, that's the wrong one. Article overlay and Chrome. And then we've got the PDF. So obviously, as usual, the only things that are new are in magenta in the article, so we can just skip right to the new stuff. So I guess I'll start it off. Core battalions, wizard finders of Andor, magic hunters. Add the following paragraph to the beginning of this ability. Each time a unit in this battalion is affected by a spell cast by an enemy unit or the abilities of an endless spell summoned by an enemy unit, you can roll a dice. On a 5+, ignore the effect of that spell or effects of that endless spell's abilities on this unit. What do we think?
It's neat.
It's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
I think it's just like an extra thing that people that were already taking this get, though. I don't know if this would convince someone to take this over something else.
I have heard a few people being convinced by it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're not one or two drops, then you're probably taking something like this.
Right. Well, just for the effect that you could like charge in your insert unit here, like Hell Pit Abomination, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh no, he's got Blizzard, and it's like, well,
the Hell Pit's a bad choice because he already has a.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to think of a monster that find my Terrorgeist. Let's say my Terrorgeist.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't think you can have a Terrorgeist in it though. I thought it was a hero of 9 wounds or less, and then
you get one behemoth. That's
one
not
behemoth.
a hero.
Yeah.
Oh, do you get a behemoth? Oh,
yep.
My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's optional. You don't need to have it.
Yeah.
Right. But
okay.
But yeah. So like my Terrorgeist. Not that they're not awful, even though they did get a points reduction, which is lovely. But you charge it in there, and then they're like, "Well, I'm gonna try and get this Blizzard out. Probably use a lot of primal dice, and then there's still a chance that I might just be like, I'm sorry, like 1 in 3."
Oh yeah.
I'm curious about it because like I do have a few armies that don't really care about drops, and again the Hell Pit Abomination in Skaven, was just the first thing I thought of, but yeah, you're right. It's not the best. Although, like, you could that would give the Hell Pit Abomination 2 ignores.
One of the FAQs for the core rules that they added is that spell ignores don't stack. So they got ahead of that already.
Damn it. Okay, never mind. Withdrawn
So,
your honor.
yeah.
That's fair.
Horn and
Yeah, that's true.
hell pits.
Hell pits. Yeah. It was funny. I was just
Iron guts.
talking about how, like, before, because Tommy, we have a mutual friend, Tommy, and I was just saying, like, remember the hell pit has a spell ignore, like, that's super important. And then I didn't even, you know.
It's
well.
easy to forget, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a change that will have varying impacts on different factions. Like, for one, OBR just cannot take it. They don't have an eligible hero to put in the mandatory slot, so they just, it means literally nothing to them.
What?
Armies that are obligate, like, or very much so want to be 1-drop or 2-drop armies aren't going to take it anyways.
Because they can't be a spellcaster to go in the battalion.
Yeah, you can't have a spellcaster.
Right.
They have to be no mount, less than 10 wounds, non-unique, non-wizard.
Right.
And so you've excluded all of OBR at that point.
I can't think of an army that... Oh, I guess Soulblight isn't the same thing, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the White King. Never mind.
Oh, there you go. You
Yeah.
can go White King.
I was trying to think of another army where that's the case, but yeah.
Siege, maybe?
Zeech is all wizards.
True. Yeah, the Fate Master is their non-wizard, but he's on a disc, which is a mount.
The Fate Master?
Yeah. Although technically you could coalition in anything, and coalition and allies are allowed to be in battalions.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So
but
you
OBR can't take allies or coalition, so they still don't get any interaction.
Oh my. Well.
But yeah, I think the general idea with using this is you put it on your big hammers and give them a spell ignore, namely for Blizzard, but also for all the debuff spells out there. Drain Vitalities, for Fangs of the Bad Moon.
Right. Oh, and
Foot of Gore.
Horrible says more incidental LRL hate. Yeah, I guess LRL's another one that doesn't work. That's true.
And then, yeah, you accidentally become better at fighting wizards with your guys. And they're out there, you know, every single Mortarch for death is a wizard.
Yep.
Vamp Lord on Zombie Dragon, an Arcane Tome on a Stonehorn, or on a Giant.
Yeah, literally anything mounted on a Zombie Dragon or Terrorgeist is a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that. Not that you're going to see a lot of those. Actually, you will in Soulblight. That's true. Yeah. But maybe not in FEC. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe.
Let's scroll down on the Battlescroll, maybe. We'll see.
I don't think so. Because they lowered the points on the regular. Anyway, we'll get there in a minute. So then the next thing is battle tactics. Drain their power. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly hero with a nullstone adornment is contesting an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. So this is just another... this is the first time we've ever had 9 tactics. Am I right? I think.
I have not been counting, but that sounds right.
I don't think we've ever had, like, they just added one. And this is good for, like, the non-magic armies, right?
Yes, this is specifically designed to counteract people who can't do Magic Dom.
Right.
And it is a very easy tactic. It is. Just walk that hero onto a point. You don't even need to control it. They just have to be on a point that your opponent controlled.
Right. And and you can only do this one if you if you have a nullstone adornment, which means you don't have a wizard. So,
correct. So
some armies can make it, even if they have access to a wizard, you could still do that. Mm-hmm. So it might be an interesting, we might see the, things change a little bit.
No, it definitely legitimizes non-wizard armies a lot more now.
Right.
It's just not an auto turn 1 score like Magic Dom is the problem.
That's true. So I guess Magic Dom can be and it can't be. Like, there's sacrifices you have to make for it in order for it to work. Generally, you have to make sure that they're outside of Unbind range, and then it doesn't work against Seraphon, for example.
Right.
If they have a slan of any kind. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. You're absolutely right. But yeah. Should we move on? Carson, do you want to read out Power Flux?
Sure. Yeah. Cool. So this just says change the 4th bullet point to score 1 victory point if any enemy wizard hero units were destroyed in that battle round, this victory point is scored at the end of the battle round instead of at the end of each turn. So this is basically just a defense against, like, what if someone throws a wizard into you on their turn to deny you 1 victory point, I think. So, and then it also caps it at still 1 per battle round. So it's the same, except now you can get some. It's odd, actually. I think this is one of the only things that you can score victory points outside of your turn, which is kind of neat.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, if they charge into you and you could.
Because before there was that timing window you could miss. Yeah.
Right.
For going first.
Why do you think they changed this?
It was just confusing, and there was a weird traps where, yeah, if you went first and you didn't kill something, and then on your opponent's turn you did kill a wizard, then you didn't score because you missed your timing to score, and it just cleaned up the wording.
That's fair.
There's also,
yeah, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say there's also, like, your opponent being able to deny you battle tactics, or sorry, victory points in their turn, which is really odd. Like, if they know that, okay, I can't do a battle tactic next turn, or I can't score very many points next turn, I have what I need to have, I'm just going to throw all my wizards into this person so they can't score victory points for the rest of the game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
It's a rare scenario, but, like, it does exist, and I'd imagine they don't really like that.
No. I mean, like, my biggest thing is, like, I think they should only do these kinds of updates to battle plans when it's absolutely necessary, because, like, most of us, even when you're at home, or when you're obviously if you guys are at tournament or something like that, a lot of us use the actual GHB. We're not using the app. You know what I mean? And so to have to remember to, like, oh yeah, they made a change to that, and then go find the change, and then to, like, put the text in there. And so, like, I hear what you guys are saying, and I do think it was necessary, but everybody
grab a Sharpie and write it on your GHB. That thing's going to be invalidated in less than a year. Just write on.
Yeah, that's true. Itself. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're not going to be using it after a certain point. So, yeah, that's a good point. Oh, and Ludivicus says, Squig Boss and 2 Squig Herd in Wizard Hunters. Coming for you. Love it. Maybe you might want to add a Mangler now, because, like, in Jaws of Mork, they're still probably too high, but but you could put them in Wizard Hunters now. Might not be bad. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going down to the Grand Alliance Chaos. Yeah. Matthias, would you like to read out the Blades of Corn?
Sure. So they added in a new sentence for Hatred of Sorcery, and it is as follows. Each time a friendly unit casts a spell, you must roll a dice. On a 5-up, that spell is automatically unbound.
So the reason I had you read that out was not because of your Be'lakor thing, although I did, like, think earlier about that whole battle tactic and how that was going to affect your army that you're playing, which was Khorne with Be'lakor. Yeah, that wasn't a spiteful thing. I just thought Matthias likes Khorne. He's got Khorne in his background. Why don't you read that out,
There you go.
So can you explain, Matthias, how this affects your army?
Right. It's an interesting change where everybody was expecting Khorne to just lose access to wizards altogether.
Right.
And just straight up you can't take them, or maybe even a more nuanced take would be you can take a wizard, but they lose the wizard keyword. But this is the route that they decided to go down, where every time they cast a spell on a 5-up, it unbinds itself.
Right.
Unbind is a very specific word there. Instead of having it just fail, it means that for magical dominance on a 5-up, it unbinds and you fail the tactic. So that's probably what they were really going for here, was people take a wizard in Khorne so that they can secure Magic Dom as a turn 1 tactic, because Khorne in particular doesn't have good turn 1 tactics. All of their book tactics are good situationally, and so they become good turns 2, 3, and 4 when there's just a lot of stuff happening and you can maybe pick out a tactic from the book that works. But at the start, you didn't really have anything, so this makes it not a reliable turn 1 tactic, and now all of a sudden adding in an ally or a regiment of renown just to get a tactic, just for it to fail on a 5-up, is not great. And then
No.
even as a last ditch effort tactic where it's like, well, I have nothing else I can try, but there's an enemy in unbind range. I have nothing else, may as well try it. Now there's an extra layer that you need to get through to get it to go off. So it is mostly going after the battle tactic and its reliability, and that I think is enough to push wizards out of Khorne unless you're taking that wizard for some other reason.
Right. I think, like 40K Will says Khorne's still good. I think that's true. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we got a new, I say we, I don't play Khorne, but like there is a new battle tactic for Nullstone Adornment armies. And again, like it's not a good first turn one, like you said, but it is like a good,
yes,
here you go, Fido kind of thing, right?
It's generally, I think the consensus is it's going to push wizards out of Khorne, and you're just going to use those points to take units like Furies or Valkia the Bloody that can guarantee surround and destroy on turn 1, regardless of the battle plan. Right. Super mobile units that can do that tactic for you. I
know, I'm sure as like a tournament player, this might be kind of annoying, but it is better than them just saying no wizards in Khorne and just being kind of dicks about it. And it's also kind of like, it's thematic, which GW tends to like. They like to keep things thematic. And it keeps the people happy who are like, come on, like people are just taking this very anti-thematic thing, you know what I mean, to win games, which is, of course, their prerogative. Like, it's crazy to kind of get upset about it. But I kind of get why they're doing this. And I think it's actually a pretty good compromise, to be honest. And like, if you're just like, I just want to take Be'lakor in there, and like that's just like the design of my army. Well, they didn't say no wizards, so you can still do that, and you can still do those things. And then it's like, well, if you just care about, if you're caring about points and that kind of thing and strategy and whatnot, then now it's kind of discouraging you from doing it for those reasons. But it doesn't discourage you from just taking it for fun, which I like,
Yeah. That's a good point. If you made a conversion for like a Khornate Be'lakor, then they're still letting you play with him.
Exactly. And I mean, because like I would be super annoyed if I did that, because I don't go to tournaments and whatnot. And then, if I did that and now it's just like, oh, you can't use it anymore. You're just like, well, great. $200 and all that time and effort. And now what do I have to do? I have to like go get into Slaves of Darkness or Zeech or something, like, and then you're raging, right? So it saves it.
One comment from the chat that I wanted to bring up. Ludivicus said that you could still do the Zeech Regiment Renown, do Magic Dome with the ununbindable endless spell if you wanted it. Unfortunately, Ludivicus, that's before this first battle round or first turn actually starts. So you can't do it after you declare that you're doing Magic Dome.
Yeah, I was just double checking that now.
Yeah, sorry. While you guys were talking, I was just like, I'm actually just looking it
up. I didn't actually read the comment. Where was it?
40K Will. The Unbind does not get better as you improve your spell ignore. It's just stuck at a 5-up. That would be fun though.
Oh.
And I specifically for me in the list that I take, with Be'lakor and the one that I took to Cake or Death and won with, I think it pushes Be'lakor out because there is a better battle tactic for no wizards, and that just changes the structure of my list entirely to the point where I think I just build a new list from the ground up at that point. So right. I think I just stop using my list altogether.
Yeah, that's fair. And now I know what you guys are. Now I'm on the same page. Yeah, for the Zeech, because Zeech can do that. That's at the start of the game. I'm assuming it's the same for the Regiment of Renown as it is for Zeech in general, right?
It's actually a good point. 40K Will is Archaon is a wizard, and if you were to deny wizards altogether, then Khorne doesn't get Archaon for some reason.
Wow.
So
wait,
this is a decent.
Oh, compromise. I see. Is Archaon actually in the tome?
No, but he's a war master. He's not in any of the chaos.
Oh,
totems.
he's like Kragnos or whatever. Got it.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, cool. Carson, you're kind of toxic. Did you want to read out Magickin of Nurgle?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, this is the change, and it's funny because we were explaining like the minutia of this not that long ago, like maybe 1 or 2 streams ago. Sloppity Bile Piper's "My love is like a ripe fart" has changed, and what it previously was the no pylon shenanigans, and instead what it's done is Nurgle demon units wholly within 14 inches of any friendly Sloppity Bile Pipers playing this tune are -1 to hit, essentially. So, and it's only for the combat phase because they have to declare it at the start of the combat phase. And yeah, that's a pretty big change. I think it's personally for the better. I'm not a Nurgle player, so that makes that seem biased. But it's like
I am.
I know. But that rule caused so much confusion, and I know so many people who didn't know like truly how to properly interact with it.
Right.
I am so glad they changed this.
Yeah.
And
Because like
it's just kind of a bad interaction in general.
it is.
And anytime where you have to like, okay, at each thing you're like almost like stressed about it, right? When you're explaining some kind of complicated interaction or rule, you're like, okay, here's the thing. You know what I mean? And you start going into it, and yeah, this is better because it's just like, I wish they would just kind of do this thing from the start. Like, think ahead to these.
This is a lot more of like in line with their book writing philosophy these days, where it's just a simple rule instead of the master's degree you needed to properly interact with what it was before.
Yeah.
It was so specific.
Yeah.
But there was counterplay you could do around the pylons if you knew exactly how the wording worked.
Yep.
And I played a Nurgle opponent at Cake or Death just Sunday, and like I was bringing up things that not even he was like fully aware of. Just
yeah.
like because of like how pylons work in the core rules, and then how pylons work with that wording. There is still ways to work around the pylons.
Exactly. And for context, Matthias won the Tacoma Open last year with Nurgle.
In 2022.
In
2023. The very first one.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry. Right. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, I also brought Nurgle to the Team World Championships of
Right.
Warhammer.
That's true.
It does ultimately change a lot of Nurgle. So this will probably, and I think paired with the points changes later, why they're not really getting a points hit despite their win rate being high, this is mostly the reason. Because really, after they dropped the points cost of Plague Bearers down, it just became Glotkin throwing Plague Bearers and turning off pylons. And that was generally the army. And now that you can't turn off pylons, -1 to hit isn't going to stop hammers from getting to do anything like they were before.
Right.
So it will cause a definite shift and probably a drop in their win rate, hopefully to something more neutral, but really, who knows? Because there was enough other changes that I think we'll just have to see where the meta settles.
That's fair. I have a like you were mentioning the you know how Nurgle had a high win rate and stuff like that, and maybe that's why they didn't get nerfed. I have a hot take on that. I actually don't think GW uses the win rates very much, but I'll go into that later. Okay. But first, Andrew Gonzalez had a question. Do you get blood tithe for unbinding your own spell in Khorne?
No.
No?
That would be fun, but no.
But doesn't it say each time you unbind a spell?
No. The wording for Hatred of Sorcery is when you're targeted by an enemy spell or an endless spell summoned by an enemy.
Okay.
On a 5-up, you ignore it.
That's fair. That sounded like a great question to me because I don't play Khorne and I.
That is a good question, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. And then Will answered it, of course, right after. But anyway, there you go, Andrew. Okay, so Beasts of Chaos. No one really plays that.
All right.
Here, I meant here. I don't mean in general, although I'm not wrong there either. Matthias,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just simple changes to do with like. There's a lot of range increases that are
that's
going
true.
on
Yeah, there's a
bunch of armies,
lot of that. Yeah, like Nighthaunt and whatnot. So basically, Gors increase their range of both of their weapons to 2 inches, and Zangor's same thing. So not super exciting. And then we're on to Skaven. Okay.
Take this one away, Rob.
Yes, I will. Okay, so add the following battle tactic: flee, flee. You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if 2 or more friendly Skaven units retreated this turn. That's really good. Like, we finally have a good, like a really solid battle tactic. And that's another reason why I don't think that they're using the win rates. Because, yeah, they hit the Screaming Bell, and, like, that was what was broken, blah, blah, blah. But, like, we were at, like, what, a 52% win rate? Sometimes higher, right? Sometimes lower, but, like, it was mostly above 50%. And...
For
but they...
Skaven?
Yeah. It was...
What do you mean? Aren't they like low 40s most of the time? Win rate?
For ages. And then after...
Or you're talking not recently.
I'm talking the last, like, 2 months or so. Basically, actually, ever since Worlds. So, like, shortly before Worlds happened, people started figuring out the 3 bell list and whatnot, and it was started doing well. And then... I forget the name of the guy who took 3 bells to Worlds and came in second, but now everyone's running that. And since then, the win rates have been pretty good.
Tom Maudsley, I think.
Maybe.
Tom Maudsley, yeah. Actually, I shared a car with Tom Maudsley from the Atlanta airport to the venue, which was kind of neat. We just happened to be picked up at the same time.
That's cool. If only you had known then what you know now about avoiding the venue. Never mind. We're just going to move on. So, I don't know. This is really exciting. So, I guess they got rid of the other one that they added, right?
No, it is that tactic. They just reworded it to be a little easier. Because before it was retreat with a hero and a battle line. Now it's just retreat with 2 units.
That's true. That's a good point. I didn't remember. I thought it was called something different, like flee, flee, something, something. But anyway,
a revisionist history.
Yeah, maybe. I think I only got a chance to like play it once or something. So, Grayseer on Screaming Bell. Oh no, sorry. Delete the push into battle. That's from the last one. And then this is really interesting. Pitch battle profiles. Plague monks change the unit size to 20. Like it always should have been 20, because it's Skaven, arguably. Yeah. But like, this is so interesting because the unit size is 20, and now I'm assuming they have like a new points like listed under it because otherwise, you're just...
They doubled the points cost for them.
Okay, that makes sense. This is such a weird change to make all of a sudden. I don't really...
I think they're trying to differentiate Plague Monks more from Censor Bearers because before this,
right,
Plague Monks, Censor Bearers are just straight better. They do everything better.
That's true. Well, I mean... The thing is before, like, this is, I think, a buff to Plague Monks because now you can get the unit size up to 60. Like, you have access to this.
I think 40s are generally where you want to be because you just want the extra reach, that 3-inch reach, and then you have enough.
You couldn't even be in 40s before. Like, 30s was the max. So...
And it sucks to have to burn all your reinforcement points to get to 30.
To get to 30, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Storm Vermin are still in that.
Like, why not just go for Censor Bearers who have -1 to wound and the same defensive profile because they have the same wound density otherwise. 2 wounds for 5 guys versus 10 guys with 1 wound each. But they just have Rend 1 damage 2 instead of Rend nothing damage 1.
Yeah. This is much better.
A double unit size is particularly nice though because it means their +1 attack on the charge and +1 attack prayer will compound twice as much value.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. Cool. Carson, would you like to read the Slaves to Darkness?
No.
No, okay. The Demon Prince.
So, Demon Prince. Change the attack's characteristic of Demonic Axe and Hellforged Sword to 7. Those are 2 separate weapons, and change the attack's characteristic of Malefic Talons to 12. This is a pretty cool buff.
Yum.
It turns him into actually like kind of a bit of a hammer, which is cool. I know that if you run him as Nurgle, he can shut off wards, and the ability to like proc more mortal wounds is pretty spicy. And when you have 7 attacks, that's like almost not guaranteed, but it's way more likely that you're doing D3 mortals in addition. So that's pretty nice.
I like the Malefic Talons more.
12 attacks, yeah, 2 damage each. That's pretty big, especially if he can get like +1 rend via Eye of the Gods or something, or not Eye of the Gods,
Hoarfrost.
or Hoarfrost. Yeah,
Ooh.
literally anything you roll on Hoarfrost for that is like really good.
Yes.
But I'd like to point out that 12 attacks with the Malefic Talons is actually just 3 Ogre Gluttons. So,
All right, buddy. All right.
Oh,
But-
dirty.
no, it's pretty cool. I think combined with the Nurgle like shutting off wards, it's quite good.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see this as like a bit of a beat stick in armies.
I tried playing the Demon Prince in Nurgle a lot because I really like turning off wards.
Yeah.
And I gave him the axe, which used to be... So the axe and sword used to be 5 attacks, and the claws used to be 8 attacks.
Wow.
And he just did not get any damage through with that axe. Like,
Right.
you were lucky to get 1 or 2 through. And he's just never... So he was only there to turn off wards as a heroic action. Just wasn't worth it. So changing it to the Malefic Talons with 12 attacks in an army that can give him Hoarfrost, and suddenly he can be a 12-inch flying hammer now that turns off wards. Like, for 150 points, I don't mind taking multiples
God
of the Malefic
dang,
Talons
150 points?
Yeah, right?
Whoa.
That's why I feel like the Malefic Talons are the real increase, because that's 4 extra attacks as opposed to the 2 extra attacks, and
Yeah.
just getting enough attacks through.
It's kind of diminishing returns though, isn't it? If you have multiple, because you can only target Hoarfrost once. Like you can only put it on one, and it's a heroic action to shut off wards. So you can only do that once also.
I'm imagining it as like you buff one up, send it into
yeah.
attack, and then you keep doing that one at a time, and
The
then they
Skaven
leave
way.
your
I see.
Yeah.
buff range over time.
Gotcha.
Like sacrificial.
Or you're trying to take AoE
Yeah.
pluses to rend, like Purple Sun, or effectively Blissbarb Archers, or Chaos Gargant. Those are all 3 ways of giving enemies reduced save, which is giving them extra rend.
Horrible says flaming weapon with talons. That's a great idea too.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then someone else casts Hoarfrost, bumps him up, and good God.
Just 36 damage.
Yeah, yeah, like, he just kills a giant by himself. Like, oh my God. Yeah, that's a great call. I love it.
We'll get to that, Latificus. That's a very good point.
Since turning off wards will turn off bodyguards now too. Exactly. Oh my God, I wanted to talk about that so much. Okay, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But that's a great point. Absolutely. And then we already talked about the Zangors, the Zangies.
Yeah.
And then Horrors of Zeech. This is interesting. This is for Zeech. Sorry, I guess we didn't really I didn't say it. I didn't like actually notice that because like you anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So we're on to Zeech now. So pitch battle profiles, Horrors of Zeech notes change to battle line if the unit contains no blue horrors and no brimstone horrors. If the unit contains no pink horrors, change the points cost to 120. If the unit contains no pink horrors and no blue horrors, change the point cost to 80. God dang it. What the hell is... Oh my God. So, or Matthias, you could probably explain this better than I can. Like I'm a Zeech casual.
They just... Pink horrors cost however much they do.
Yeah.
And then they just added the option to make all blues, and then it's not going to cost 260 points to take all blues. Right. Now you can pay 120 for all blues, or pay 80 for just brimstones.
Right.
They're just... Because they're all in the same war scroll, they all had to be under the pink horror cost.
Right.
Now they're adding in clause that makes it so you can take different levels of horrors.
Exactly.
You also can't do the weird thing of, I think at one point people were taking 9 pinks and 1 blue to specifically get around like a rule of some sort. I forget what it was, but
I forget now too.
they're kind of hitting that reasoning as well. This is just really nice for Tzeentch, though, having really cheap battle line. That's because I think their cheapest battle line is 110, 120 points for Kyrok Acolytes. Yeah. So more than the Blue Horrors, the Brimstones being 80 points is what you want.
If you're in the other guild, then you can take Screamers.
Yeah, but who's taking not Guilded Summoners at this point?
At this point, yeah. What's crazy too is that one was always my favorite because my favorite model is the chicken. But then I found out how many chickens you need to actually properly run it. And I'm just like, okay, well, there goes that, because who's,
yeah.
Anybody.
So this is just going to open up more list building options for Tzeentch,
which is really nice. But they do lose the battle line kind of thing. For if you're taking just blues.
Or pink. True. Yeah, they're not battle line, actually. So, that's a good point.
But it does because like a lot of the time with Tzeentch, you're left over with just a few, points here and there. So you could take them as battle line, or not battle line, but just as a screen rather.
A cheap screen.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay.
So maybe not that impactful.
So now we are on to Order.
Ew. Screw Order.
Yeah, order. You love me. So Vanquishers for Stormcast Eternals, increase your range to 2 inches. No one
changes everything. Oh my goodness! Wow,
it's so different. Not really. So moving on to Seraphon. These are pretty interesting and spicy changes, and they really just point to the fact that they need to be separating the stats on Starborn and Coalesced even more so than the ones we've been doing since the start, which is every faction in the Orc War Clans. But putting that aside, Starborn command traits, Lord of... Man, I hate this magenta text. Lord of Celestial Resonance changed to the first time each phase that this general either successfully casts a spell that is not unbound, successfully unbinds a spell, or successfully dispels an endless spell, you receive 2 cosmic power points instead of 1. So before, what people were doing was they were just kind of like using this to get extra, like because you have 3 casts on your Slan, so then you were getting an extra 3 for every.
Before it was every time you cast.
Exactly. So this is a big change. Kroxigor and Kroxigor Warspawn changed the wound characteristic from 4 to 5. They did accidentally update the app, so now their save has gone from a 4 up to a 5 up by mistake. Clearly an error, obviously, but we're waiting for them to fix it. This is awesome. Because Kroxigor are really not great. Like, they're kind of laughably bad, and now I think that I think you can make a case for them now. And
now, guess what? You're going to see Kroxigor and Starborn, because that's just all this book is people taking the things that they're buffing to Coalesced and plugging them into Starborn anyways.
Yep. And there's the cool people who are just playing Coalesced because it's awesome. Like a boss.
The cool and coolest. Yeah.
Yeah.
The change to Lord of Celestial Resonance is pretty big, though, because that is pretty much the difference between being able to summon a unit of Raptidon Chargers every turn.
Yeah.
So that's huge, because that was one of the big long range threat projections that Seraphon had, is being able to summon those on the board and just run them into someone.
Right. Yeah. Totally. It's a good
The
point.
Starborn players I'm talking to don't seem too bothered by it.
No.
There's alternatives. There's definitely alternatives,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that the current play style that people are kind of used to is going to change a little bit.
I am curious, though, how much it'll actually come out in the long run, that maybe it does actually matter a lot, not being able to put out Raptidons every turn.
Well, and they did some kind of buff for Seraphon too. We'll get to that in the Seraphon FAQ, but they changed something, and I can't remember what it is, because I don't play Starborn because I'm not a degenerate. But we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Do you want to take cities, Carson?
Sure.
Cool.
So the Alchemite Warforger was changed, surprising nobody whatsoever. While the unit has blazing weapons, each unmodified hit roll of 6 for an attack made by that unit with a melee weapon causes 1 mortal wound to the target in addition to any damage it inflicts.
What do
So-
we think?
That basically just killed Fusiliers, essentially.
It kind of did.
Because that was the main thing that people were afraid of, is you have a 60 block of Fusiliers reaching across the table and delivering like 10 mortal wounds on average,
And
essentially.
it messed with steam tanks too a lot.
It does mess with
True.
steam tanks
Yeah.
because they have high volume of fire with their because they're
Steam
pumping up their attacks to like 3d6 essentially at 12-inch range. So big change, but not surprising.
It's not surprising. I wish I like Eric's change a lot more. Eric's suggestion was, and Eric is biased. He plays Cities of Sigmar, and he had Fusiliers, but his idea was you pick 1 unit, and then they get the buff, and then at least then it's not too crazy. But I guess the problem is that with the orders, like if you shoot them, then you could, you're taking full 30 shots from their unit, and when they're doing mortal wounds in addition, it gets kind of crazy. And so I don't know. I don't know that it was necessary. Like, I wish they would have sat on it a little bit longer personally, but I don't know.
This spell's not that great now.
It's
Holy
not
within 12
Yeah.
for melee.
Like-
Cavaliers are your melee piece, and they're never gonna be near your Warforger like that.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, if they put it on like some kind of, if this spell was on the Griffin, then he can be moving up with people, and you can kind of keep it going, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, now it's not great.
Yeah, we just have to wait for the next whatever points adjustment for Fusiliers to go down, but for now, they're just not going to be taken.
It's true. Okay, Eine Diebkin, Fuithen. You can include. They've messed with this rule again. It's kind of funny. You can include bloodthirsty shivers in your army. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a unit in a bloodthirsty shiver is a 6, that attack automatically wounds. Do not make a wound roll. So before it was exploding 6s, now it is automatically wounding. Cool. It's, I don't know. I don't really care. I don't. Yeah.
I think this takes the spikiness out of
Yeah.
right then. And that's what kind of most people were scared of. Is like, what if they roll 4 6s? That's 8 hits.
I
Like,
think mathematically it's about the same.
I think so. That's what I was, because if you, anyway, it doesn't really matter, but like, yeah, you have like, because they're wounding on 3s, and against some units that they're wounding on 4s because of banners and stuff like that, right? So, like, I would probably rather have auto hitting, because I hate rolling 4s. Like, I hate trying to go for 4s. So like this, I might like this more, and it's just rolling less dice too. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know. I played with the bloodthirsty shivers on the old rule, and I never got enough 6s. Like, it was always disappointing. And so I don't know. Like, I just never got to take them out and really wreck face with them. But anyway. So then the Eidolon aspect of the sea. This one's kind of a change out of left field for some people. And basically, his spell went up in range. It used to be 12 inches. Now it's 18 inches. And it went from D3 units to 3 units because you can no longer stack. The general rule change that's in the FAQ for the general rules is you can't, like, if it says pick 3 units, the old FAQ said you could pick the same unit. And now it says it's the opposite of that. So you can't -1 to their save like 2 or 3 times in a row. So they had to do something to make it like not straight up Garbo, and that's what they chose. I don't think you're still gonna see this guy, but I would love to be wrong because it's a cool model. Matthias, would you like to read the Fire Slayers?
Volkite Berserkers, which is their basic battle line guys, just had 2-inch reach, which is actually very nice for them.
It is.
I think Hearthguard Berserkers already have 2-inch reach on some of their weapons. But because these guys come in 10s, they'll actually get a lot more efficiency.
Well, and aren't they on 40s too?
32s.
32.
The whole army is just on 32s, which
Okay.
means you're gonna end up like traffic jamming yourself and choking yourself out for space a lot.
Right.
So being able to fight in 2 ranks is gonna really help with that.
Absolutely.
Now it's not your main hammers that are getting any big changes, so it's not gonna fundamentally shake the foundation of the army like it might with other armies who got 2-inch range change, but it's
right.
still nice.
I like it.
It's nice.
Agreed. Okay, and now we are on to death.
Speaking of which,
yeah, Jinx. So Bladegeist Revenants, Dread Scythe Harridans, and everyone's obvious favorite Glaive Wraith Stalkers all move up to 2 inches. This is huge. And for context for everyone, the Grimghast Reapers.
yeah,
They were already on 2-inch reach. So this is like the damage dealing main units before that they are all on 32s and were all on a 1-inch reach. Those poor bastards. Now they're on a 2-inch reach. This is actually a big deal because the whole army is like, it's like an infantry army. There's no monsters.
Yeah.
There's very low cavalry.
Because you need things charging to get your value,
Yeah.
you had to leave space on like enemy units for more things to charge in, which means you're inherently denying more models getting into swing.
Yeah.
But now you're okay with that. It's very nice.
Yeah, Nighthawk kind of like suffer from having an early battle tome, like Deep Cannon and a few other ones that got it really early. And so this just kind of brings them into line with everything else. You kind of talked about it earlier, how they're just kind of bringing the new, better rules in for older armies, you know? Would you...
Actually,
yep.
I was just going to say that this change to Nighthaunt convinced Big Phil actually to bring Nighthaunt to Sheffield Slaughter, which is pretty cool.
Cool. And Big
So-
Phil...
Oh yeah.
Phil Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to...
No.
Okay. So, moving right along, Matthias, would you like to talk about Null Myriad?
Ooh.
This is
So Null Myriad changed the Eldritch Null's rule to you can roll a dice each time a friendly Null Myriad unit is affected by a spell cast by an enemy unit or the abilities of an endless spell summoned by an enemy unit. On a 4-up, ignore the effect of that endless spell or the effects of that endless spell's abilities on that unit. It's a nerf with a little bit of a buff because there's no longer needing to be near any Mortisan or Arcan to get the ability.
fair.
It's just a blanket 4-up army-wide.
Fair.
But it's generally a nerf because big cast armies like Luma, Tzeentch, and Seraphon
Yeah.
will happily spam dump spells into you regardless of your range.
Yeah. I personally think this is too far. I'm definitely a person who
It's
has
fine.
well, and I mean that's fair, but so that's the great thing, right? Matthias plays OBR, right? Like for a long time it was your main army, right?
Well, I've been picking it up recently. I showed up to 2 different tournaments with it in the last month.
I meant like way before, like in AOS.
And on release, I played it, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
Like ever since they've been out, you've been playing them. You got a really wonderfully converted army, and you're very invested in them. And like you told me that like they were your favorite army, like aesthetically and like lore and whatnot, feel and.
Yeah.
At one point you said that, like, and so it doesn't have to remain true, right? But like you really love them is my point. And you're going, this is fine, right? And I have been like, of anyone I know, I'm the biggest like OBR hater because they were, I remember when they first came out, they were like maybe the most broken thing ever, like literally ever. Them and like Daughters of Cain 1.0,
Right.
Truly terrifying.
2.0 Slanesh.
Yeah, 2.0 Slanesh. Like those 3 are like the main ones that I think like all time biggest NPEs. So like I've got kind of like they're kind of like a sore spot for me. You know what I mean? Because like I just remember throwing like high rend, ultra high hitting stuff into them for ages, and just nothing happened. And so I'm not an OBR fan, and yet I think that this is too far. So it's kind of good that maybe it's right in the middle then. If I think it's too far and you think it's fine, you know, considering our perspectives. But I think a 3-up would have been better.
I think this is kind of an interesting thing from GW's perspective happening, where like they're kind of like balancing out the spell ignores across the entire game, instead of it just being like, if a Seraphon player or a Tzeentch player or a Lumineth player shows up to a game and their opponent is Null Myriad or Khorne, probably an L. Whereas now Khorne is still the same, but like Null Myriad is more. There's more of a chance for sure.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like sprinkled around everywhere, where like everyone has answers to Magic a little bit, instead of it just being like, let's play roulette when when you're going to a tournament. Maybe a Seraphon player, Starborn player just like doesn't run into any of their counters and they just like blast their way to the top. Whereas now there's hopefully going to be more little sprinklings of 5-up spell ignores and stuff like that.
That's true. Before it was kind of like a game of rock, paper, scissors where everyone's only allowed to hold one thing. and then who you get is random. You know what I mean? You just walk up like, oh, I got scissors. You got rock? Oh, man. You know what I mean? And then you move on, right? Yeah, that's true. And, this is my least favorite faction in the new one because it felt very auto-take at the start. And my favorite is the one that Matthias was playing with the counter-charge tactics. And that can be very frustrating to play against, but I just think that the idea is cool. It's very strategic. So, this will probably lean people more in that direction, and Petrifex Elite and whatnot.
Null Myriad it was like a 90% pick rate.
Yeah. I think even at a 3-up though, I think that would have drastically changed.
But if you don't have to be near heroes and have a 3-up, that's actually feels like a buff.
Oh, fair enough. That's true.
Because then you don't have to take Arcane, which makes more room for more Morghasts.
Okay, fair enough.
So it just gets worse.
So like then you could have kept. Either one. I get fair enough. Okay, so then you could have been like, so either this or 3-up, and you still need the Mortison, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
And this is just a cleaner rule where it's
it is
just
a much
flat
cleaner
ability.
Rule. That's true. I don't see people taking it that much anymore though.
Probably not, but I think that's because Seraphon got hit as well.
That's true.
And you were really only taking it because Seraphon would just be a real bad time otherwise.
But like, man, I think they're gonna like, I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see how it shakes out, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we're on to Soul Blight. They've had so many changes, but the only new one is Battle Tactic, the Grasping Dead. Change the pick one friendly summonable unit within 3 inches of any enemy units. You complete this battle tactic if any enemy models were slain by that friendly unit this turn, and that friendly unit is within 3 inches of any enemy units at the end of this turn. Mm-hmm. Because Streamlabs had a stroke on me, I was going to go get my book.
I looked it up.
Oh, did you? Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah. So all that changed from this tactic was they added the sentence, if any enemy models were slain by friendly unit this turn. So before it was pick a summonable unit that's in combat, it just needs to end the turn in combat. Now it needs to kill a model and end a turn in combat.
Weird.
So they did nerf it a little bit. I think. So it means like, if you have 7 zombies that are stuck in combat with like a wizard, you won't auto score it.
Right.
I don't think it shifts the tides enough that like an all zombie list isn't going to be good still.
Well, yeah, it doesn't say by attacks. It just says by this unit.
Yeah.
So
So the mortal wound reflect.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't think that this was necessary personally. Like I think it is necessary, but it wasn't a good enough change because I think it's feels pointed.
It is kind of an autocomplete if it's not having to kill a unit. Because, like, 10 die rolls are really tough to just kill unless a hammer is going into them.
Right.
And
But-
so it's kind of an auto score otherwise.
I don't think it justifies changing it if this is all you're going to do, is what I was trying to say. Because it's just like, it's just, I don't know. I really don't think that they nailed that book. Like, I think they
Probably not, no.
like man, they really needed to do a lot more development on that book. Like,
It's kind of just a cesspool of taking the most efficient thing and
yeah, and like,
running away with it.
and the stuff that's not efficient is so inefficient that, like, it's kind of the only way to run it. So when it came out, like, I was excited for vampires. I like vampires. You know, I played mostly Castelli during AOS 2 and then AOS 3 obviously as well. And then it came out, and then I was just like, I played that one game with you against your OBR, and I haven't played them since then. I mean, we've got Roman now, so I'm like,
man.
thank God for Roman, because now I don't have to play this. Like,
Right.
I do like what's it? Virkos. I love their theme, but I just don't have enough painted for them. So, you know, maybe one day. Yeah, battle tactics are so weird. You get to stand on an objective and pick your nose, or call a wizard Bob while facing east at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Both worth the same points. Yeah, that's a great point. Man, they really could have actually messed with that, like, in a more granular game. Like, if they made that from the get-go. Huh. What is going on, Kiki? I like your enthusiasm. So we're going down to destruction. Okay. I didn't notice this change until just now. There were so many changes on the day of. So Auric War Clans sneak up. You complete. Yeah. Never mind. I didn't notice this. Of course, I noticed this. So sneak up. You complete this tactic if at the end of your turn, every friendly Cruel Boys unit is within 3 inches of any terrain feature and is more than 3 inches from all enemy units. You can only pick this battle tactic if the model picked to be your general has the Cruel Boys keyword. Now, this one is interesting. My original idea was that your allegiance had to be Cruel Boys, so I was much more harsh about it, because this is one of those messed up ones where it gets easier to do if you're not taking Cruel Boys. That's what's effed up about it, because you have to have less units near the terrain, right? And the less you have of Cruel Boys in your army, up and to including only one unit, it gets easier and easier, and that's messed up. And that's why originally I was like, it should be your allegiance. You can only get this if your allegiance is Cruel Boys. And then Will said to me he didn't like that because he really likes to play Auric War Clans. And then I was like, you know what? Like, and this is the suggestion that he had. This is ages and ages ago, right? And so then we were talking about it on the Las Vegas preview show. And Alex brought it up the same thing, and so I was still saying allegiance at that point, but then I agreed with Alex at the time, and I agree with Will. I think this is better for everyone, but like as a Cruel Boys player, I thought, this should be Cruel Boys allegiance, because it's still easier for Auric War Clans than it is if you're on a Cruel Boys pure army, right? Like, I played a battle report against. Yeah, for Big Wall. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. I played a battle report against Will, and I took this in an Allegiance army, but I had Kragnos. So Kragnos got to run in while everyone else just chilled with their shoes off. So, yeah, I still think that it would have been better maybe, but like this is something for everyone, you know? So, and then it's the same thing with the Iron Jaws one. You can only pick it if your general has the Iron Jaws keyword. Like, fair enough. Perfect. This is great.
You know? Basically reads as in a Big Wall army, you lose the Iron Jaws tactic.
Which is what it should have been in the first place. No, I'm just kidding. Yes. Yeah, kinda, huh?
The Cruel Boys one's so good.
The Cruel Boys one is amazing. And like that's always been one of their biggest weaknesses, was they didn't have, you know, like doing the 10 or more mortal wounds only worked if you had just a crazy ton of Bolt Boys. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's not the. It's a little bit. It's not the best. You don't really want to encourage spamless, but anyway. And then there is one more change. Tusk Boss. Change the last sentence of the unstoppable momentum ability to, at the end of the battle round, subtract 1 from this unit's momentum score to a minimum 1. This is a huge change if you like those big Maw Gruntas. It was so lame before because it's not like you could even control like what your opponent's doing, right? And that kind of thing. Yeah. This is a huge change, and it's really great. You still have to keep track of stuff, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know how to read into it, but it is strictly better. Instead of losing a momentum every turn, it's every battle round.
Yeah.
But
That seems to be the complaint before, was that, like, you know, you're losing so much of it, you might as well almost not even keep track, you know. So yeah, I like it. I wish they'd done something similar with the Agrodons for Coalesced, but they hate us now. And then we've got, is it Sons of Behemat? Yeah. I wish they'd made the font a little bit different, like bigger in comparison with the rest of it. Or underlined it or done something that made it easier to find your
old
faction.
man Rob can't read.
I've got it smaller on my screen because I'm streaming over here. Wrath of Titans, Earth-Shaking Roar. Replace the first sentence with, pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of this model and roll a dice. On a 3-up, that unit cannot issue or receive orders in the following combat phase. In addition, if the first roll was successful and that enemy unit has a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2, roll 2d6. If that roll is higher than that unit's bravery characteristic, for each point by which the roll exceeds the unit's bravery characteristic, one model in that unit flees. That unit's commanding player decides which models flee. The effect of this monstrous rampage is not considered to be a battle shock test. Oh my god, that's way too long.
I just really like that the rules are concise in this game. Can I just say that? I just really like that it's super easy to grok exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
So-
I've always said that.
What they changed here is they just baked in a roar. All of that stuff that Rob read before has been there already. It's just it also is a roar now.
The key thing too is that it says issue or receive orders, but that was FAQ'd to be commands after
True.
this,
Oh, got it.
because otherwise it's just like
This
singularly
only applies to
countering cities. Is really weird.
Clearly, the person who wrote the cities book was working on
There's
this.
only like 2 that come out in the combat phase.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Man, what a
That was
mouthful.
something that Alex pointed out.
What's that?
I was just saying that was something that Alex pointed out.
Oh, cool. Cool. And now we got a bunch of points changes.
The reds and greens.
The reds and greens. It's Christmas, baby. Or it was Christmas. Ether Void Pendulum plus 10. Emerald Life Swarm minus 10. Geminids of Ulgish plus 10. Prismic Palisades, Quicksilver Sword, Soul Snare Shackles, and the Burning Head minus 10. All of them. Thoughts?
Swords seems
changes.
maybe.
Swords.
Swords of maybe
Swords.
swords. Burning Head, Soul Snare Shackles, Prismatic Palisade, Emerald Life Swarm were all still bad.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Fair. But Quicksilver
But
Swords.
swords interacting with the new bodyguard rules is really
Exactly.
interesting.
I don't think swords interacts with the bodyguard rule.
It now like this change interacts with them because it says no ward save on swords, and now
It can't be
because
negated.
bodyguards are.
Can't be negated. Not no ward saves.
That's true. That's interesting.
Oh, I see. So that didn't change, is what you're saying?
Yeah, because swords don't turn off wards. They just say you can't be negated.
Right. So like, was that always the case then? Because don't you negate to a model?
Yeah, before it was a shorthand, like a ward negates. But now that a ward doesn't always just negate, it can also move it to a different unit.
Oh,
not-
I see. So this specifically gets around that.
So, like, yeah, swords don't. Bodyguards
I mean-
will still work with swords.
Well, that's fair because it also went down 10 points. So I'm okay with this. I don't know.
It's just such a hard spell to use because it has like such a short setup and move range,
Right.
and it has to move over the unit, not even end within an inch. So it's like so limited in its capability that I don't like it. I've never liked it.
Right.
The pendulum should have always been 50 points, I think. And the Geminids going up 10, sure, it's impactful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and Horrible says they didn't change Malevolent Maelstrom points. Question.
No, they didn't they nerf the Maelstrom higher up? We skipped over it, I think, technically.
What?
But
Do we?
yeah, right at the top.
Hoi.
It explodes within 9 inches instead of 12 inches now.
I don't see that here.
At the top, above Grand Alliance Chaos.
Boop, 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 ba-doo. Oh, my bad.
Magenta.
That's true.
Because
Also,
it is
only the
magenta.
words within 9 inches are in magenta. Everything
That's
else is
annoying.
not.
right.
Yes.
Good Lord. Okay. Another thing to point out too, maybe, is that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are the tournament players, but like, I would have said before that the main danger, the main bad side of Malevolent Maelstrom was Seraphon with their extra,
Oh, yeah.
Giga Chad points. So like now with that nerf as well, I feel like that also brings down Malevolent Maelstrom in general.
That is a pretty generic nerf to mostly Seraphon. It's true.
Right. But anyway, cool. So now we are, what's the next thing? Beasts of Chaos, Bestigors, also known as Worstigors, minus 20. Cool.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to move the needles all that much, but...
They're not Bulgor.
Nope.
I'll tell you that much.
Exactly. Claws of Karanak, up 20. Fair?
What's more interesting to talk about for Khorne is what we don't see here versus what we do see here.
Right.
Everybody's taking one Claws of Karanak, so I see why it's going up, because it's probably being taken everywhere.
Right.
Just because it's a pre-game move unit, is what it really is. Most armies will be able to absorb a 20-point hit, so it's not going to really change much, because you're only taking one of them. But the things that didn't change, like particularly the Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, which is the Whip Thirster that you see everywhere in
Right.
competitive lists.
Right.
He's completely coming out just fine.
Right.
None of the priests are getting touched. None of the Blood Reavers or anything else is getting touched. Like, Khorne is just changing. The only thing they're changing is that they're dropping their wizard, and if they're dropping things like Bellicor, which frees up their ally points all of a sudden, they could take Untamed Beasts instead, which are 80 points. And although you don't get to Murderlust them, it's not really changing anything. So honestly, Khorne came out of this with no hits.
Pretty
And
happy,
that is
right?
why everybody's looking at Khorne looking like they're going to be the best army now. Because, yeah, I mean, they were already like right at the top tier and they didn't get touched.
So this is another example of an army that has a higher win rate, that really didn't get touched. Maybe they're thinking, well, with this nerf to Bellicor and blah, 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 but then they already added the extra battle tactic in. So
it hurts their turn one tactic.
It hurts their turn one tactic for sure. No one's disagreeing with that. But considering how high they were up in terms of like win rate, and you know what I mean?
Don't
like,
think it'll change their win rate. I think it might change their 5-0 win rate.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying though is I don't think GW uses the win rates to balance these things nearly as much as we were assuming.
I don't think they look at the win rates as much as
exactly
the community does. I think the community really overemphasizes it.
I agree with that as well. I think it, because putting all that aside, people were just, because the people like the community were just constantly talking about like this win rate, that win rate, this win rate, that win rate, and then it's like it's gonna be this when the Battlescroll came out, and they're not using that. I think what the main thing that they use is like people complaining as a barometer, and I've got more evidence of that in like coming up, and I'll highlight that when we get to it. Okay, actually, right here, I don't know enough about cities, but yeah, I mean, Carson, would you mind reading it out? I'm gonna grab some water because I'm dying here.
Sure. Yeah, so in cities, we've got the Iron World Cannon going down 10 points, Steam Tank up 20 points, the Alchemite Warfortress going down 10 points, probably to accommodate the vastly worse spell. The Fusel Major on Ogre Warhol goes down 20 points, which is kind of neat. Steam Tank Commander's up 20 points. Talia Vetra's down 40 points. Free Guild Command Corps up 30 points to a flat 200. And then Wildercorp Hunters are minus 10 points as well. So, I mean, it feels like this was a reaction to LVO.
Oh, yeah.
The Steam Tanks. Even though I've heard a lot of rumors that, like, you know, the Battlescroll hasn't changed since LVO. I don't know if that's necessarily true, just because, like, why would they touch Steam Tanks otherwise? Right. That's definitely a feather in Gavin Grigar's hat to just be like, I am the reason for this point.
Oh, man, I'd be shouting that from the rooftops. Yeah. Okay, so the Warforger going down makes total sense after they, like, he should probably go down more, to be honest, right?
No, he's still super good for an AoE +1 to save. That's still crazy.
Oh, fair. Yeah, that's true. Okay, but especially like, that wasn't...
list.
That's true. Yeah, my God. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, but like the thing I actually wanted to say was, what do we think about them not changing Fusiliers? Because, like, aren't they kind of too expensive now when they don't have access to the Mortal Wound? Or
as an argument to that, I'm going to use your own words against you, because I remember you distinctly saying that you really dislike it when they change the rules of something and the points of something at the same time.
That's true. That's true. Okay, no. Okay. No. But like, you are technically right. That's true. But what I think we all mean when we say that is, don't nerf an army and like in terms of points and change its rules at the same time, or don't do the opposite. Don't buff its points and do that. Like, if you're taking away something major, I think you should give something back. Maybe. I'm not, by the way, I didn't say I think necessarily. Like, I was asking what it was. Like, don't we think... Like, I'm trying to create a discussion here, guys. This is my main role here.
No. You came here to be attacked. Okay?
That's true. Right. That's true.
I only joined this video for one reason and one reason only.
Yeah.
To yell at Rob.
I mean, if history has taught me anything, it's that I do come here to be attacked, actually. That's why I put myself out on the internet. Classic rookie mistake. Okay, fine. Let's just say I'm entirely wrong about that, and Fusiliers are definitely still going to be just as viable as they were before. They won't, but go on. What do we think about Talia Vedra with like a 12.5% decrease or something like that to her?
Yeah, I think Talia's plenty takeable just for...
Right?
Not even just for her weird rally stuff, but really just because she's a big monster that might hand out always strikes last and just is fast and punchy.
Fast, exactly. Big, yeah, monstrous rampages. It's a pretty, like, I'm really glad about this one just because I love it when they buff cool models that we haven't been seeing, and so just for that reason alone, I still think they should have made like a dual kit and like had like a priestess or something on Scorpion Lion. I gotta make sure I don't call it Manticore. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad we'll hopefully see more of the model. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, Daughters of Cain. Matthias, you are the resident expert on Daughters of Cain.
That's right. I've played a total 0 games with them.
How many have you played against them, Matthias?
A decent amount.
Well,
almost all against Dale.
Exactly. Johnson. Sustained, Rob. Go on. Take it away, Matthias.
Yeah. Normally I'm beating him into the dirt, so I don't know a lot about the rules.
Oh, snap. Shots fired.
Yeah, we'll be happy to see these changes. So all
Yeah.
3 Cauldron variants went down in points. The funniest one is the Blood Rack Shrine going down 20, so it's 160. Because a normal Blood Rack Medusa is 140.
Right.
So to put her on a shrine is 20 points more, which is just like hilariously cheap.
Yeah.
The combo deal.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess why even bother taking the foot one at this point?
Yeah, right. Unless
What the heck?
is if she's a wizard, I guess maybe a
Because
battalion.
the Intorian Acolyte
But
really is
still,
the only piece right now. But
I'm totally with you there. That's crazy.
the Cauldron and the Head Queen on Cauldron and Slaughter Queen on Cauldron going down 10 is like, sure, you're really only taking one of those anyways. Marathi going down 20 is like, that makes some people nervous because
They remember?
Marathis have a bit of a history with the meta,
They sure do.
sorted past.
Yep.
But you know what? I think she's gone up in points in past War Scrolls before, so putting her back to normal to try and bring the list back is probably okay.
Fair.
Probably okay. The Shadeborn going down 10 is nice because as Dale, I feel like, has really pioneered, the Shadeborn are really nice for scoring tactics, like better than not Furies, what are they called again? Kinnarai, because even though Kinnarai have a battle tactic tied to them, Daughters of Cain have enough good tactics that you just want something that doesn't die after scoring Cruel Delight.
Right.
And these guys can do the Tide of Blades and Surround and Destroy and Intimidate. And if you really need to try, there's a Shadow Stalker specific battle tactic to make a 9-inch charge with them. And they can punch, they can shoot, they're annoying to kill. They're just way better. They auto teleport every turn. They're just way better than Furies, like as a war scroll. And then the tactics are, by virtue of surviving past the turn they come down, they are just as good, if not better, at scoring battle tactics.
Right.
And going down 10 points is like, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Make them more takeable.
I think, so before, like you brought up, Marathi has this like sorted past with the meta and bow snakes and everything else. And we, those of us that were there, Pepperidge Farm remembers, right? And so we're just like, I don't want that to happen again. But back then, Dale, like when everyone was playing Daughters of Cain, they were one of the more popular factions, partially because they were strong and partially because the cool models were good, right? Back then, Dale was playing pretty much a very similar list now and doing well with them, right?
Yeah.
These lists that people were like, playing with were also doing pretty good with them. And now no one's playing Daughters of Cain. Like I remember the last time I saw the win rate on them, the amount of people that were playing them were 6. There was only 6 people. You're just going like, holy moly. Like
one
that
of those
is
Dale.
so low. Yeah, one of them is Dale. So I really think that Daughters are way better than people realize. And I think Dale is probably going to show that because they're getting buffs here of units that he wants to take. So yeah. Disciples of Titsnitch, Changemaster, Herald of Titsnitch, -10, Magister on disc, and Ogroid and Jade Obelisk rather are all -10. So everyone got -10 there. And this is interesting because these are all a lot of the units that got nerfed before. Specifically the Ogroid, Thermitage, and the Magister on disc because his War Scroll spell is really good. Actually, the Changecaster too. You've been seeing him more, but the Magister and the Ogroid were the 2 ones that people were like complaining about, and they got nerfed before. Yeah, this is interesting. They're both Arcanite wizards, which you need in Summoner's Guild. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it really moves the needle that much.
No, I agree with that because you're
just
gonna have like
take
one of
Zangor.
each, right?
You take Zangor Enlightened on disc, anyways.
Right.
They're like 130, so that's just what you're gonna see. Hence, still,
Right.
the Thaumaturge is nice though. Some people take the Thaumaturge, and 10 points is maybe just going to give you a better endless spell option, or maybe it's doing nothing more than offsetting the cost of the pendulum going up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I know that Matt Beasley brought Jade Obelisk in his LVO list as well. So good for him.
Good for him. Go him.
Matthias Willard asks, Matthias doesn't F with elf baddies.
I get 0 elf strange, bro.
Oh man, that was a great answer. Flesh Eater Courts, speaking of strange, Nagash, Supreme Lord of the Undead. He went down 105 points. Just kidding. It's because his points were already adjusted, over time in other meta. And these books were clearly made so long ago that like they didn't come up with it. Like this book was clearly made, before, man, maybe even, I don't know. I want to say that like a long time ago.
165?
Yeah.
That's like at least a year or two ago.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. Anyway. And the same thing with the Terrorgeist, because the Terrorgeist have been, I think, this price since Soulblight Gravelords came out. Like, I don't think the by themselves have gone up. Which makes sense, because like they were like 315 or whatever they were in the new book, and they're like worse than the old ones, right?
I mean,
I mean, I guess there's 2 more wounds, but like
maybe the assumption was because Beck have that one warlord trait where you can revive Terrorgeist at a time. That's why they made them more expensive. But if it is just because the points changes were so long ago,
I think that's what it is, because like no one was taking them before, and their war scroll like 2 more wounds, it was bad.
Being a normal cost now, maybe with that warlord trait, it's more than just a meme. It's probably not the most efficient feckless, but I think it's still, I think it's a takeable direction for them now.
I think it makes them interesting for sure. I made a list now with Gristlegore, and I don't have everything I need painted, but I want to run it because I think it's cool. Like I like just a bunch of zombie bats. But anyway, the Cryptcast Courtier is going down 20 points, which is the most obvious thing in the world, because the Cryptcast Courtier was the same points as like the Herald. Yeah, or like a bunch of things. Yeah, him too. Yeah, they're all the same points, and you're just like, in what universe? Like this guy is so clearly the worst thing in the book. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were going to change it, because that guy you make out of the kit. So like, who's going to sacrifice like an entire box of those to make that one guy? What were they thinking? But I guess a lot of people have already made them through conversions and whatnot. So I actually ended up with an extra guy, so I have one. But yeah, and he looks the same. Whatever. The Vargulf Courtier is going down 5 points. I don't know. I've seen people argue from both sides of it, but they clearly just want to get rid of the 5-point increments.
Yeah.
Royal Beast Flayers, same thing. Although I think they're actually really strong, especially because they didn't change with the keyword stuff with how.
Oh, they should have FAQ'd that. Oops, that's gonna be a problem.
I think so. You're talking about the Chalice, I assume.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Recursion is their strength, so we'll have to see. Yeah. Okay, Fire Slayers. Take it away, Matthias. You're a fiery redhead.
Wow. The biggest changes are the Magma Drossel going down.
Right.
I mean, Magma Drossel are just kind of not only like, something that's takeable in all the Fire Slayers lists, they're also the coolest one because they're not a foot baby.
Yeah, that's true.
So them going down 20, and 10 is really nice. And then all their heroes are going down. The Rune Smiter, which is I believe that's the Deep Strike guy. The Rune Father, who you do always see because you give him the axe and he punches really good. The Battlesmith for his banner, which you put the Nulcidian icon on for the spell ignore. Doomseeker is going down 10. I think might actually be the biggest change, because you can take Doomseekers in the Doomseeker list. And so if you have like 9 of them, that is an actual significant points drop.
Right.
Dargon, Flamespitter, whatever. Auric Hearthguard, sure. Auric Hearthguard Berserkers going down 10. That's actually another nice change as well, because you could see like there used to be a list of like 215 blocks of them, so that's actually going to compound to something valuable. And so now I'm going to fix my posture after reading Keith's message. I always just slowly I like stretching my legs, and I always just sink as
That's godlike, though. What a great comment.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm all self-conscious about it.
Yeah,
they're all points changes. The things that make Fire Slayers not particularly good right now aren't their points. So, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
we can move on.
And that's true. And by the way, Willard, Keith asks, does he still do 6 mortal wounds on 6s? He does. You know, so like on 3 attacks, like, you know, on average, like maybe 50% of the time you're getting 1 hit. But like for the amount of points they are, and they don't, you know, 4-up save, blah, blah, blah. But what I did want to point out with Flesh Eater Courts is, I think that their heroes should have gone down on Terrorgeist, because if you add a Abhorrent Ghoul King on foot, who's 130 points, to the Terrorgeist version, you get to 390 points. He has 1 less attack on his War Scroll, right? And he is 450 points. So it's 60 points extra to put him on a Terrorgeist, like rather than have those 2 units separate, right? And so it's kind of the opposite problem of what Daughters of Cain have, where it's like, why not put him on an extra awesome thing and make him way better? It's like you're kind of punished for doing so. So I hope they lower those points eventually, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong because of the Gristlegore sort of general buff, you know, because of the battle line stuff being better.
There
now.
are other reasons, yeah, like putting him on a 130 mil base, so he has a 12-inch aura of +1 attack goes further, giving him survivability.
Do you mean the +1 to hit? Oh, you mean from the general rules? Yeah, that's true.
Deeds, yeah,
that's true. That's a bigger buff, and I mean they did change.
Way more mobility and tankiness means he can pick up the noble deeds and hold on to them safer.
That's fair, and he does have it does change his War Scroll spell, because his War Scroll spell is re-roll your hit rolls for the Fanged Maw. So you can make that argument as well. I'm just saying, like, I think they're a little off. Like, I would like to see, usually you get like a discounted bundle when you put 2 things together, and so not the opposite. So, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just wanted to point it out. Okay. Okay. Gloomspite gets, so this is another army that was like generally sitting at a sub 50% win rate, and they got mostly nerfs. And you're saying, but Rob, there are more green on there than there are red. No one cares about all these things that they buffed, because
sorry, Conan.
Yeah, sorry, Conan. I'm a Spider-Fang guy. I was playing them on the channel since way before the book came out, like 6-7 months before the book came out. I've been playing in the slow grow we did on the channel. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want to see that. They're all up there. Carson did the intros with me, and they're hilarious. But yeah, no one cares. Like seriously, they're not competitive. And the one good Spider-Fang unit was the Web Spinner Shaman, and they increased his points by 5. It's actually fair, but it's just kind of funny. You know what I mean? So, and then they actually debuffed or nerfed some of their important units. And that's why I actually think that like GW listens to the complainers, because like 10 points for Bounders, like, I don't know. I think that was a bad choice. But yeah, they also increased Gobapalooza and Sneaky Snufflers. And yeah, sure, you're seeing 1 in each army, but like Gloomspite Gits have not been a problem since the last time they were nerfed, in my opinion. And I don't even really play them anymore, because there's so many locals now that play Gloomspite Gits that like I just don't play them anymore, because it's just like, oh, like, you know, Kenrick typically wants to play them on the channel, and Will's played them on the channel, and and Danny, and like there's just so many people that come on and play it. So I just don't get to play them anymore. So it doesn't affect me personally. I'm just saying it because I think it's true, essentially. So yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely odd that they decided to, like, every unit that they targeted with the nerf is present in like one of the most common lists that you would see for Gloomspite kits right now, which is like 2 big blocks of 15.
Yeah.
Gobblepalooza, Sneaky Snufflers, Scrag Rod, 2 groups of 20 stabbers, etc., etc., etc. Phil Marshall ran it at WCW. I saw Chris Lemoy run it at Cake or Death just this last weekend.
Right.
It's weird that they decided to do that when it's just like, I think people were running that because that's what they latched onto. Like, okay, this is actually somewhat viable. It's not that it's like overpowered. It's just like, this is the best we can get. So
exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah, 100%. And I hope we still see them. I hope we still see I feel like this might kick a lot of people off the army, and that'll make me sad because Gloomspite gets spent more time than anyone at the absolute bottom of the barrel in Age of Sigmar. Like since their release in AOS 2, it's just like, oh god, this army's so bad. And then anyway, moving right along, I'm Deepkin. Both eels went down 10 points.
Yeah, screw Slanesh. Who cares about Slanesh?
Oh, did I skip Slanesh?
Yeah.
Screw Slanesh. I want to say that actually.
You did kind of sum up Slanesh right now.
That's true. Screw Slanesh. Well,
you could just skip over him.
We spent so much time, and I'm speaking as an Idneth, of course, in her belly, in Hishi's giant demonic belly. Screw Slanesh. I know she likes it, but screw her. So
Texessa and Sinessa went down. Wow, they're garbage units. Who cares?
That's
Keeper of
true.
Secrets went down. Sure. That's 20 points, I guess. Shalaxi Hellbane went down. She's garbage. Cool. It doesn't matter. The Mask went down. That's maybe the most interesting one because the Mask is a fun unit that actually gets value in Slanesh that you don't see. Hellstriders went down. Wow, you don't see them. That doesn't matter. Demonettes went down. Wow, they're a garbage unit. Doesn't matter. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, screw Slanesh. GW agrees with me. Like, they're actually pretty low. Again, I don't think they look at the points. They were pretty low on the win rate the last while. I think they were sitting around 46, if I remember right.
They just need to... The things that they do want to change, if they do change, could become, like, real problems.
A problem again? Yeah. I don't disagree with that. What are you going to do? Screw Slanesh.
I just want to take Glutos, Orcillion, and Nurgle. That's all I really want. Is that so much to ask for?
Yep. Moving right along.
Yes.
So both eels went down for Idneth Deepkin. This is cool. This is their third buff in a row. I just want to point out that from the beginning, I was like, eels are not going to be the thing. And they sure weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So moving right along, KO. Poor KO. Oof. Holy moly. Lord have mercy.
I think this was heavy-handed points-wise. And I know that they had a very high win rate, but I think what they needed was probably battle tactics adjustments.
Yep.
As opposed to points changes. Because they have a lot of gimme tactics that really have nothing to do with what your opponent is doing.
Right.
So
it ends up being kind of like an MPE in general.
Yeah.
I think I don't mind them changing some points. Like Navigator, you know what I mean? Like a few, you can change a few of them. That's okay, right?
Yeah, but this is everything that I can think of.
Everything.
Like when I think of a KO list, this is almost a KO list right here.
Yeah,
That the Navigator and Admiral, 2 frigates.
But what if I told you that they buffed just the Ironclad?
Exactly. Cool. The thing you're gonna take like one up in your army anyway.
Yeah.
This is a bit too much. I think
it's too much, and further proof that they listen to the complainers. So if you want stuff changed, then just complain a lot.
I think even as far as win rate goes, I would speculate that. So like KO is obviously a threat. Like a good player will pilot KO very well, and it'll be scary. But that's true for any army that's, viable in some capacity.
Yep.
I think that the difference is that a lot of like new to like mid-level players don't quite know how to handle KO, because to play against KO, you do definitely have to know like the very specifics of like, okay, how does flying high work? Like, what are they actually going to do? Like, what are the specific things that I have to keep in mind in order to play against this person. It requires a lot of knowledge about their book, and if you don't have that, then it seems like they're overpowered.
Yeah.
But once you kind of like figure it out and you realize what's going on there, like it's a game, right? You like there's a back and forth to it. So
It's true. I mean, it is further proof that their main concern isn't tournaments as well. It's actually just people playing in their local game store. And when, those people never figure out KO, right? So then they just get blown up every week. And then they're like, dear GW, I don't like this. And here we go. You know what I mean? And Keith mentioned, I like to think they had a plan with IDK to get players to stop auto eel spam. It seems to have worked. And that was kind of the case. Like I was playing them in AOS 1, like right when they first came out. I loved them. And eel spam is kind of is more of a more simple version of that. It's not quite as like obvious. Like if you didn't screen against eels in AOS 1, you got blown up because they were like much higher than average output, and they were fast. So you had to know how to screen properly, and a lot of people obviously don't. And so then I think they were punished in AOS 3 for their sins of AOS 1 and 2. But yeah, anyway, I think it was too over heavy-handed. Matthias, do you think so as well?
I mean, the generic Thunderer Ironclad list survives this.
Really?
It's just you can still
less
take
stuff around it.
Yeah, it's just like one less unit. It just pulled out like a gun hauler or something.
I see.
So I mean, maybe that'll change things.
That's
but
fair.
I don't know.
I think I can't remember what you said it about earlier in the stream, Matthias, but this maybe turns it into like a 5 or from a 5-0 army to like a 4-1 army. Whereas like once it reaches top tables, maybe that thing becomes the difference between them winning a game or
rate
not.
Stays the same, but the 5-0 rate drops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and Horrible says difficult to screen eels though if they can hop over. I mean, but like a proper screen doesn't let you hop over. Like that's what a screen is. Like it's not just a unit that goes in front of it because they fly. Like the whole army flies. But yeah. Yeah, like yeah, everything Leviticus is saying, anyway, we get it. We'll move right along. Lumineth Realm Lords. This is interesting. So Teclis was just nerfed, and now he's being buffed. And I understand it, but just moving right along. Huracan, Wind Mage, -10. Sentinels, -10.
Ooh.
And yeah, that's spicy. And then Sanctum of Amintok.
No idea what it does. Maybe we'll see it now that it's 20 points, just like the Diest for Stormcast.
I love Matthias's live reactions. Like, just whatever. Ooh.
I mean, yeah.
My when you started saying that, I was like, I thought I turned off live reactions. And then I thought you were like, I was like looking at my screen. Oh man. Yes. So now, am I stating the obvious too much when I say that I think that Lumineth were doing really well before, and then because in this current GW, or excuse me, General's Handbook rather, we're seeing it's harder for them because everyone has access to better magic, more power dice and such.
I think the reason Lumineth dried up is more to do with them hitting Huron, whatever the sub-faction is for the shooting, where you could double the number of shots on Sentinels. And after they hit that just dried
That's
up.
fair.
And now I think they're bringing down the points. Much like how Fusiliers, they didn't touch the points, but they hit the source of the damage. And here, we're on the second stage of that, where they hit the source, but they didn't touch the point of Sentinels. And now this battle scroll, now the points are coming down.
I think that's true as well. But then wouldn't you also say that, like, okay, before Teclis autocasts on a 10, 4 spells, right?
I would say that, but
And then Skaven, I'm going like, well, what do I do about
player
that?
who won the WCW?
That's true. That's a
That makes
great
me
point.
question it.
But then, and ultimately, obviously, you know, it is players that win games, not armies.
Yeah, he won. That's the one.
But like before, if someone cast, whatever the spell is that gives the mortal wound shrug in a bubble from Teclis, right? I'm going like, as a Skaven player.
Yes, that also reduced their value because you can unbind the one most important spell.
Exactly. I'm just saving my dice for that. You can not cast it if you don't want, but
there's also interesting things though, like having a 4-up spell ignore for Blizzard is really nice.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
It's not all downside.
Jolly good point, Matthias. Would you like to talk about Maggotkin of Nurgle?
Nargalbadis. So Gutrot went down. He was already takeable at 160 just because he opens up a certain type of mobility where he can come off the board edge and bring on some mortals with him. So him going down is just nice. Sure.
We saw him at Cake or Death, right?
I don't think. Well, at least I didn't see him.
I thought he was in a list at Cake. It doesn't matter. Sorry,
Maybe.
go on.
Probably. Harbinger of Decay went down 20. This feels like the points cost that he should be at, because I don't feel like he's honestly that impactful for 190 points, but 170 makes him like thumbs up. That's feels right to me. Lord of Plagues going down 20 is like, okay, he's the guy that gives a bonus attack to Putrid Blight Kings for free, not as a command. He just does it in the combat phase. So like, okay, maybe you take one of him, I guess. Morbidex going up 10 is like, yeah, that tracks because he's actually maybe more takeable after the other two went up in points, I believe. So he's just following just a little bit behind. Then the Rotbringer Sorcerer's going down, just the Rot Coven going down 10 points, whatever. Okay. Then the Rotmire Krieg going down 10. Thank you, finally. Jeez. They got rules nerfed twice in a row and points nerfed twice in a row.
What?
So they just stopped being takeable. And so now they're going down a little bit, and maybe you take one unit of 10. Okay.
Are you not getting the disease points on their shooting attack anymore?
You do. You always did. So what they nerfed was...
Yeah.
So the first nerf they got to the rules was incredibly necessary because it was... They just had like unbounded disease spreading. So like every disease they give to the unit they shoot at, everybody else within 3 inches also got that disease, and it was insane.
Whoa!
So they changed it to just one at a time, so you could only spread one disease. But because you can do it in shooting and combat, you can spread one. And then they changed it to, at the end of the phase, the disease spread. So if you killed the unit, then no disease spreads.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, they started at like 120, and then they went up to 150 eventually, and now they're down to 140 after the nerfs. And I think you do take just 110 block, and maybe 140 is okay for 110 block, just so that you have access to some disease spreading.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Nighthawk, Alrek, or Alan the Downer. My son and I call him Larry the Downer just because it's funny. It has nothing to do with his name. But he's down another 10. It's funny when he came out, everyone's like, yeah, like I can see in certain niche lists and blah, blah, blah. We've never seen him. I think he needs to go down way more than this because, or not way more, but like, yeah, he's a named character though. Anyway, Nagash down 40. Reikenor, always a good choice. And going down an additional 10, that's pretty good. Scriptor Mortis, nope. You're still not seeing this guy unless you're just like desperate for something that's like exactly 100 points. He's bad. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. But with the other, with just those simple rules changes to their attacks radius, this might be enough to just really actually do something with them. I'm going to be curious to see it.
Yeah.
And so then moving to ogre maw tribes, I'll take this one, Carson, or or Carlton, or whatever your real name is.
Carson?
Yeah. I'm Roderick, by the way. They are so obviously, because Carlton is so overpowered with his list, they obviously bumped everything up and made it more expensive, right? So that's all you need to know.
That's why everything's green.
Yeah. Don't look at the screen. Don't look at the man behind this curtain. Okay, actually, do you want to actually take us through it?
Yeah, sure. So this is, I guess so. There's not really anything big here. Like, so as far as like the combined arms type list that I normally run, nothing really changed. In fact, literally nothing changed. But what's kind of interesting about this is that like it unlocks more options in other lists. So we'll just kind of go down the list. The Blood Belt Hunter is down by 10. No one's taking him anyway, so it doesn't matter. The Butcher's down by 10. That's kind of neat because previously the Slaughtermaster and the Butcher were the exact same amount of points, except the Slaughtermaster was like a 1/3 chance that you got +1 to wound. So you should probably take the Slaughtermaster. But, 10 points, that's something to play with. It's kind of neat. The Frost Lord on Thunder Tusk is down by 20 points. I don't think anyone's going to take him. Like, if you're taking something on a Thunder Tusk and it's a hero, it's probably a Huskard because you want a Priest.
And you want the Blood Vulture.
And you want the Blood Vulture, yeah. The Mournfang pack got quite a significant cut from 170 to 150, which is pretty cool. I think it's not enough to make a list revolving around them.
Around their sub-faction or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's not enough to make like a Thunderbellies list, but it is enough to kind of like cut down on the battle line tax on some of the monster truck lists that we've seen.
Right.
So now you can like pretty comfortably take 3 Frost Lords on Stonehorn if you want to, with other things. So it just like opens up a little bit more play with the BCR list without just giving the Frost Lord on Stonehorn himself a points buff. So that's kind of neat. Lead Belchers are down by 10. Also kind of neat. It kind of seems like they've taken like 2 battle line units that some people like to use.
Right.
And just given the lists a little bit more points. So like the list that I actually played on the channel just before the Battlescroll released gained 20 points just because I had 2 units of Lead Belchers. So that means that instead of using a Fire Belly, I could have swapped that for like the Butcher or something like that. It's still been at 1990 points for an Andorian Acolytes.
And when you say gained 20 points, meaning he had 20 points of leeway,
yes,
not it increased by 20 points.
Yeah, it went from 2000 to 1980. So it generally just seems like
it might even just get you a triumph.
Yeah, exactly. So like very small things, and then as far as like Beast Collaborators go, like they're pretty happy about this because this opens up a little bit more options. So it's neat.
There's a lot of 2,000 point lists out there, Matthias.
I like making 2K perfect.
Exactly. So he would have got the triumph against you. Auric War Cleanse, Ardboy Big Boss down 10, which is interesting. Well, but like if you're taking, but then why are you taking Ardboys? Fair enough. Gordrak, Fist of Gork minus 20.
Cares?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. Maw Grunta Gougers.
All 3 of the pig variants went down.
They all went down. So Gougers went down 20. Hacking Crew went down 30, and the Tusk Boss went down 30. This is a big deal. Because, like,
I think the Gougers were the only one of the 3 that was like actually kind of okay for its points.
Yeah.
And the fact that it went down 20 points on top of that, I think it's actually pretty takeable now.
And the momentum changes.
And the momentum changes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like, wow. And I think that the I actually do like the Tusk Boss as well. Will used it very effectively in the last battle report. And is it up yet? Might not be up yet. I don't think it's up yet, now that I think about it. But anyway, you'll see it soon if it's not already out. It's Gloomspite Gets, or not Gloomspite Gets, Auric War Clans, and it's like a mishmash. Anyway, putting that aside, Zogrok Anvil Smasher down 10.
Okay.
And then Rekka's down 5.
Sure.
Ardboy's down 20. I think it's pretty good. Like, if I'm taking... Anyway, kill a boss on Great Gnash Tooth down another 10. That's wild to me. I actually think he's kind of awesome because he prevents.
He's always been takeable.
No, totally, absolutely, right from the beginning. He actually smacks pretty hard, and then his Battle Shock ability is pretty dope. And then Cruel Boys, Monster Killers, no one cares. I've never even seen them. I don't even know which one it is. And then Kill a Boss with Stabgrot -10. Like just having a hero with, you know, at 80 points, it's pretty good. Like I think this will make a bit of a difference overall to each of those. Yeah.
Overall, big buff to Big Wah. Great.
That's true. It is mainly for them, but like Cruel Boys have been kind of doing okay lately, and there's a couple of like decent.
Cruel Boys are fine.
Yeah, Cruel Boys are fine, and they got a couple of little buffs in there too, especially like the. I just took the Great Gnash Tooth in the last one, so. Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
The
Carson,
Bone
I'm just
Boys.
kidding.
Carson's lost to OBR enough. He can cover this.
I think I'm still positive against OBR.
Oh,
Nah.
I need to change that. All
I think
right.
it's just when you have a specifically like anti-me list, that's when I lose to OBR.
I'll take an old beery head and beat you up with it. Xanthos going down 10. I like that. That brings him equal in points to the generic Liege Cavalos, so that's just nice. Because you are taking... He is just kind of like a side grade, so that feels correct that he costs the same points. Mortek Crawler going down 10 changes nothing. It's a garbage unit right now. That's not going to help. Nagash change or whatever. I don't know how to really read that because it just changes the army entirely. Vok Morshin down 20 is interesting because he's 2 casts and he knows the whole lore, and that's really all of his value.
Wow.
And so for the same cost as one of the cheaper single cast wizards, like the cheapest hero in the book is 110. So he's like, if he's your second wizard, he's very takeable at 120. But if it's just one wizard, he's not takeable because he's not a Mortisan, so he can't do the Immortus Guard tactic. And he's a named character, so he doesn't get full sub-faction benefits.
Right.
And he has some cute little things, like he has a -2 to Bravery aura, like, ooh, okay. That's the other value he really has. And then he has an auto-kill spell, but it's a 1-inch range that can't be changed in any way, so I'm sure. And then when you attack him, he, on a 3-up, makes you spend a CP to attack him, which is just fun. But at 120 points, regardless of all that whatever rules, just 2 casts and Lore Master, I've squeezed him into lists now.
That's yeah. And don't you have an endless spell that makes you so you can't ignore Battle Shock or whatever?
Yep.
So
yeah,
then
the Bowtie Shrieker.
and he basically has the Grim Garland on him as well from FEC. So like against some armies, that's wild. Just
That
for
could actually, yeah, I mean, like ogres, that could come up.
yeah. Or like any army like with like just halfway decent, you know, bravery. Like it just, man, that makes a big difference. Interesting. And then the Morghast are up 10.
Yeah, specifically Archai going up 10, and then a Mortis Guard going up 10 is deserved. They should be going up 10 just because they're an auto take because they have a tactic tied to them and they're still very good. And you can generally afford to take the 20-point hit for your 6 Immortus Guard to go up. Archai going up 10, the current list of 8 Morghast going up 40 points does actually make a difference. You can get around it by just switching to the other Morghast type, but then you're losing your 5-up ward in your heroes, instead getting Deep Strike. So if you can actually use the Deep Strike, maybe it's okay. Otherwise, their points changes. It's not going to really change OBR as a whole.
Fair.
They're probably gonna, like, at this point with both of those things going up 10, they're probably just gonna shift. At least I'm gonna shift to just Necropolis Stalkers now, the next cheapest super good unit, and just spin this pattern: a Mortis Guard everywhere, and then Morghast everywhere, Now it's gonna be. I'm gonna predict that it's gonna be Necropolis Stalkers everywhere, and we're just gonna keep this dance up.
I was already starting to see Stalkers too, and then maybe they'll go too far one day, and then it'll be like Slanesh.
And then we'll finally hit the tipping point.
Screw Slanesh.
Frog time.
Okay, so Frog time. So Croak went up 30 points. It doesn't surprise me. I actually think
Finally. He went up 10 last time.
No, I know. I thought he was fine just because of the way he dies. Like, just by the way his,
The way he dies is really good, though, because it's every phase. So you can't shoot and combat. Stomps mean nothing.
It's kind of true. I don't know. But then you can just roll bad. Like, 2 clan rats can take him out.
If it's 2 damage, then okay. That's never going to happen, though.
It's actually happened to Eric. He's done it.
Sure.
So,
like, act of God aside, it's more beneficial to have
active Nagash
per phase than, like, the Kron's fine.
Yeah, overall that's true. But he's dying on an average of 10 wounds taken. On a 4-up save, it's really not that hard. But like, so I personally think he's fine. But again, there's a lot of whining, and I get it. Like I've played against Eric. I've played against Eric's list with Zeech, and like it was made worse somehow because I was casting spells. Like,
Seraphon counters Zeech.
Yeah, it does. Like, and what's funny is Eric was saying that originally, but then he was kind of going like, oh, maybe not, So like bring them against me and let's try it out. And he wanted to get prepared for tournament, and it was like so much worse. It was awful. So then the Ripperdactyl went down 10. Okay, we'll see.
Good for him.
Yeah. The Astrolith Bear went up 20. So further, it punishes Starborn, but
deserved.
It also punishes Coalesced. So yeah. Old Blood on Carnosaur. Okay. Like, it is a good unit. And for some reason, the Scar Veteran's the same cost. And it's always been that way, and it probably always will be that way. But no one's taking, like, I'm taking 2 Old Bloods because the Scar Veteran's ability, the only reason to take him, only works against monsters. It doesn't work against small units. And I said that from the beginning that was going to be the case. And I'm not even saying that it shouldn't be the case, but I don't think it should be the same points because the giving extra orders and not spending CP from the Old Blood is just way better than Rip and Tear from the Scar Vet. But, and then also the Scar Vet used to, because he has a shield, he used to have +1 to his save, and he doesn't have that anymore. And I actually thought that was a mistake, but apparently not. Starseer +10, that's fair. You're seeing them just doubled up. They're great for their ward protection. It's not that much. I don't think that really matters. I'm more upset about the Star Master going up because like you kind of want him in Coalesced as well, and so like Coalesced are already poopy. So
but they have to. They have to.
They have to. I wish they would have nerfed the Starborn rules and left him at the points he is, right? But this is the world we're living in.
To summate these points, Coalesced things went down, Starborn spam things went up. In other words, the sky is blue, grass is green, and
but like they didn't
Croxagore and Starborn now.
They didn't change like Saurus Warriors or something that's like, or Agridons. You know what I mean? Like, I know they did before, but they're still poopy. So please do something. Stegodons going down is a big deal because they have like, they don't have enough rend, but they have decent output. So then that plus the battle tactic, because they have the skink keyword, really does help them. And then the Stegodon Chief. What's that?
240 is a good rate for.
It's a good rate, and it can be battle line. Yeah, I don't think it's going to move the needle personally, but we'll see. I would love to be wrong. Stegodon Chief also went down 20 points, but 300 is crazy. I don't think you're going to see them still. I think you will start seeing Stegodons. Stegotrons are cool anyway, right? Pterodon Chief also went down 10 points. Ripperdactyl Riders went down 10. This is interesting because they do have the skink keyword, and they actually they're fast and they're good at taking out light targets. So I actually think that there's some play here. And Pterodon Riders also went down, less important because they don't have like the melee output, but yeah. Skaven. Skaven is another example of the squeaky wheel getting the cheese. or whatever, like, because we've been plus for a while now, sitting around 52%, which is what KO is sitting at. KO got like all nerfs. Skaven got like almost all buffs. Yes, there's like some of the spammed units went up, but like, man, like Grey Seers are double casters and they're down to 110 points.
Yeah, baby.
And they have like access to like a 3d6 cast. Like that's wild, right? It's really good. Grey Seer on Screaming Bell. This basically all this changes for the Screaming Bell is it makes it so you're a little less likely to spam them. And it puts them back to the points cost they were before they changed the rules. Again, pointing out that you shouldn't, do both at the same time. Master Molder down to 80 points is awesome. Ooh. Plague Claw, still no one cares. Like, even at 90 points, like, they keep bringing these things down, and people keep going, like, maybe now, bro, maybe now.
And, race to the bottom.
Oh, it really is. Like, there's no more unit that's been raced to the bottom more. Thankful going back to, like, I think his original cost. Maybe it was, like, I can't remember.
He feels so much more takeable at 400 than 430 now.
He does, even if you're just taking him for his like plus and minuses, right? Mm-hmm. And he is Master Clan, so he plugs into 3 claw steps. The Corruptor went down, the Deceiver went down, the Corruptor went down 10, Deceiver went down 20, Warbringer down 20, and the Warp Seer down 10. These are pretty good. These are actually pretty spicy.
For 360?
For 360,
Jeez.
yes. And even the Deceiver at like 380, like, I like this. And the Warp Seer, like, honestly, even like that is kind of a thing, right? Because the Warp Seer gets you 2 steps on the claw steps ahead, right? Like, he counts as 2 Master Clan.
He's still, I don't think, better than
I agree.
Grey Seers on foot right now.
But there's also a big bubble of 10 bravery from him.
That's true.
So, like, in this army where, and there's more and more, like, can't ignore battle shock out there as we go along, I think this is a vibe now.
My favorite thing about him, honestly, is his spell.
Yes, his spell, because we lost it in the general lore. So now you can mess with people's charges and also do some mortal wounds, actually.
Yeah.
The Engineer's down 10 points.
And the dance continues. Is the Bombardier and Engineer the same points? Are they different points? Are they the same?
But what's crazy is now the rules are different, like in 3.0. So like in 2.0, yeah, it was that weird thing, right? But now you need the Engineer for the Warp Lightning Cannon, which also is down to 130. How is it down to 130? Come on. Like, I am the #1 Warp Lightning Cannon lover on this planet. And I think they're too cheap now, guys. Like, I think they're actually too cheap. Like, you can get 3 of these bad boys for 390 points, plus the Engineer, right? Taking you to what, 480 for, like, a legitimate long-range threat. And I mean, like, Engineers plug into Acolyte battalions. Skaven never cared about drops. I feel like I'm betraying my brethren here, but man, this is really good. Anyway, Rat Ogre's down 10. I don't think it matters as much,
It's nice.
It is nice.
Particularly because if you want to take 6 Rogers with a Master Molder, that's 40 points total.
That's true.
It's not enough for a Vermin Lord. It's not enough for a Warp Lightning Cannon, but it's nice.
But maybe it went from, like, you couldn't fit the Lightning Cannon to now you can because of the 40-point difference. I was talking about a Wombo combo with Rat Ogres with a friend on the before the weekend to kind of just warn them about. It was from one of the lists at Cake or Death, and I was just kind of saying, like, because they had a bunch of Rogers and they had a bunch of giant rats, and and I don't remember what it was, but like, yeah, like you throw Hoarfrost on a unit of 6 Rat Ogres, and it can be legitimately terrifying, right? So there is that. And then Plague Sensor Bearers went up 10, and Plague Months went up 90, but they didn't really because they just doubled the unit in size.
Yeah.
So the only things that actually went up are the Screaming Bell, totally deserved, and the Sensor Bearers, totally deserved, right? So, yeah, I think these changes, I actually think, like, stuff's getting maybe a little too cheap. Like, I actually think Skaven were in the zone for, like, balance, and I think this is going to make them maybe a little too strong. But maybe that was just that list, and so we'll see the difference. Well, we'll find out, right? But they also got a battle tactic, so I'm really excited for Skaven. I think this is going to be great.
Well, they got an upgrade to their given battle tactic.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah. So like they got that buff to the battle, their battle tactics, and then they're getting all these points changes. So I can see them maybe being a threat, but we'll see, because before they were really leaning on the Screaming Bell and the Sensor.
Bahamut is very right though.
What's he saying?
Blade Claw going down is just a buff for Nurgle. They're the only person who might take it.
That's godlike. Yeah, because the Nurgle doesn't have the shooting. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I mean, actually, it was Alex who told me about Panago and their dairy-free cheese, because it's an allergy for me. Anyway, Sons of Behe. Oh no, I almost skipped Slaves to Darkness.
How do you do this?
Because I was like, I went over it already, and I was just like, no, who cares? And then I was moving right along. Yeah. Carson, would you like to go through these very long list of changes to Slaves to Darkness?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's go to Sons of Behemoth. Yeah.
Fair.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just to read them out. Archaon's down by 40 and Thedra's up by 20. Thedra was being used, I think, as an ally in Khorne a bunch.
Yes, that's the one thing I was going to say. Is Thedra was the cheapest wizard you could get in Khorne, and this brings her in line with the other warbands, which are 180 and 190. So
yeah,
right.
Nah.
So meh, but I mean, I don't think, like you said, Khorne probably isn't going to be taking wizards nearly as much anyway. So just a nerf to slaves, I guess. Not that they were really taking her.
True. So it's just gonna sit in whatever now.
Yeah, so
that's fair.
Yeah, nothing really changed.
In terms of slaves specifically, Archaon going down doesn't change anything, because Archaon you see with the Splintered Fang list, and him going down 40 doesn't make enough room for anything else in the list. So
interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess Sons of Behemoth, Man Crusher is down 10, War Stomp is down 10, and Man Crusher Mob minus 30, because it's 10 for each Man Crusher. I don't know. I don't think this is like... I think the Man Crusher change is the biggest change for sure. I've seen lists out there with like a bunch of Gargants and then one big guy. So that would make a big difference in that list specifically, but I don't know. Yeah,
I'm of the opinion that the Rabble Rouser regiment is better than taking Man Crushers anyways, so whatever.
Right, that's true. Yeah, good call. Soulblight, Corpse Card is up 10, which is interesting because like at the start, I remember a lot of people saying like Corpse Cards are garbage, bro, and all this other stuff, and we've definitely seen them kind of increase in popularity since the launch of the book. Evia Volga just went down just to flatten out her points. She's the one that interacts with monsters, the new chick with the bats. Cool model. I love the model, but
who Megalol?
Yeah. You're not going to see her now still. Yeah, she's not great. King Morlack Velmorn, the Sons of Velmorn, that's the Underworld's warband. They went up by 10. Okay.
They have some weird, like, cheeky synergy. I think they're the ones that stop Pylons.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So,
I still haven't found them like on individual purchase, and I love the models, and I just wanted to pick them up, but I never saw them like outside of the box set. So I think I probably missed my chance at them. But and then Nagash down like everyone else. Vordry finally down because no one's even taking his entire freaking faction. And so that they had to throw him a bone. And Terrorgeists are down to match everything else. White King down 10. This is kind of interesting because of, you can make him the general and stuff like that. But Zombie Dragons down to match. Felbat's up 10 because they were being spammed in Legion of Night, and they're really good. And yeah, I told everyone so. Vargeists are down 10, still no one cares. And Blood Knights are down 20. Yeah, like
Okay.
like the main thing they were being used for was their movement shenanigans, and obviously they didn't return those to them. So I don't know, but they're rocking that -2 rend like flat. So I don't know, like I could kind of see taking them and like, for example, like casting Hoarfrost on their weapons, and then it's like, well, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you put it on there to hit or to wound or whatever you want, and then if you get the big 3, then maybe you'll put it back on their rend depending on what you're fighting. But because then you're still 3s and 3s -3 now, and then on the charge you got more damage. I don't think it's going to move the needle, but I'm excited to maybe try Castelli again. Like maybe there's some secret spice that I haven't seen. So yeah. Carson, you know a lot about Stormcast Eternals. Do you want to take? All right, Matthias, do you want to read?
No, I can do it.
I don't know. None of us are huge Stormcast.
I angered my dog by breathing outward, apparently.
What were you thinking, breathing out?
Sorry.
What does he think he is?
Drakesporn Templar down by 20 points.
Okay.
Drakesporn who? Karis Discard is down by 20 points. Cool.
Yeah.
Krondis down by 20. I think this is the thing, is like once a model is like so huge and it's like unique, that even if it goes down by like 40 points, it doesn't really affect the list that much, because it's like chances are you're not missing 40 points out of a list anyway.
No.
And
like it's not like you're going like 530. Come on, bro. Oh, 510. Ooh, now he's so takeable. Like, give me a break. You gotta.
It's the War Scroll that really matters.
It's the War Scroll.
Once something that is that expensive.
Yeah.
Lord Relictor is down by 10. Bandit's Hammerhand is down by 10, and Questor Soulsworn is down by 20.
I don't. Ooh.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what any of this means.
Okay. Breaksworn Templar is the non-hero version of the big Star Drake. So Thor, why not? Questor Soulsworn is the good ones. That's the 6 guys that once per battle teleport outside of 9. They're 3 wounds each. They're rend 1, damage 2. They're just very efficient, and they're showing up everywhere in Stormcast and also in like Sylvaneth or maybe cities. And that's why going down 20 points for them is actually nice, because they can show up in other armies really easily. They're a good plug and play for any order army. So like them, and they were already takeable at 230. So 210 is like, sure, even more takeable. Yay.
Right. Alex said earlier, Man Crusher prices are in danger of causing the 40k knights issue. He's talking about like the smaller knights becoming in front of what people spam. Yeah, the armature. So yeah, I agree with that. And I like what Romulan Dog said the first time. He said the age of man, if over, now is the time of the warp lightning cannon. I agree with that statement on every level. And then he corrected himself. The age of man is over. I don't like that as much, but it's also true. I agree. So.
Oh yeah, and they count as bonus bodies on a point. Yeah.
Oh right.
Questor Soulsworn are just efficient.
That's a good point. Sylvaneth, Alariel down 20. Okay. You know, like you were seeing them occasionally, but like, again, it's the same thing that Carson just said. And it's even more pronounced here because she's 820 points going down to 800. It's like almost double like what we were already talking about. You might as well not even change her at all. Drycha down 20. No one cares. The War Song went down farther than Alariel and Drycha, and it's not even unique. Like, that's crazy. And the Glade Worm down 10. I don't even remember what it does, but it's a cool looking model. Yeah. So, okay. We're going to have to kind of pick up the pace a little bit because we're going to move into the individual FAQs.
Yeah, I mean, we can just cover the important stuff.
Yeah.
FAQs.
I like it. So
there's a lot of whatever changes.
Right. Okay, so I'm put away the PDF, and then I pull up the Chrome, and then I do the article overlay, and then we go over here. Bam. So
all right, let me take you through the important things of all
these.
Please,
and
things.
Thank you.
So we've talked about this before. The very first thing there's a PDF that Honest Wargamer put together of all the compiled different books.
Yes, and thanks to him, because this is such a great resource for, like, honestly, like, GW should be doing this, frankly. Like,
right.
Yeah, there should be just a single thing that you can find just the changes. But thanks to him.
The first thing, they just changed it so that if an ability can be used multiple times, you can't pick the same target.
Where is that, by the way? Like
That's
what?
the very tippity top.
Very top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's not really much to talk about this.
Okay.
Because there's no major big example that's being abused like this.
Right.
Maybe something will come up in the future, but it's a thing.
Well, honestly, like the first thing that came to mind was the Eidolon aspect of the sea.
Yeah,
And
then specifically with that one, they didn't remove the FAQ in the Idoneth Deepkin FAQ that specifically says you are allowed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're in a weird paradox.
And there was also, before there was the Arch Warlock, who it didn't say, but then when they got the 3.0 book, it says different units now for his War Scroll spell. So
for the most part, they've been cleaning up that.
They've already been exactly.
Control of objectives at the end of the turn, that's fine. They're just clarifying. Fighting in combat, that's just clarifying. Random move characteristic, you have to do it before running. That's just mean, but okay, whatever. The big one is
real quick. Sorry, Kiki pointed out it was not compiled by Honest Wargamer. It was compiled by one of the audience members. So, and he doesn't know the name, but thank you to them. So I just wanted to be clear.
Someone affiliated with.
Affiliated. Fair enough. Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So, the big thing they did with wards is bodyguards are now wards, and so that means. That's really the only change they put in here is bodyguards are a flavor of ward save now.
Yeah.
But that just has massive implications. This is the one big change through any of these FAQs. That means that now, unless specifically stated otherwise, according to this beautiful picture, you can't stack a ward save and a bodyguard. And for the most part, they've been cleaning this up. Like OBR specifically states you couldn't do that anyways with their bodyguard and ward save. Fire Slayers specifically you can. Right. The one army that specifically didn't talk about it at all and therefore benefited from it was Seraphon. They didn't say if you couldn't, so now you can't.
Right.
But it means you have to choose for Seraphon and maybe other armies that it's not as big a deal. The big implications beyond this, though, that aren't really covered is things that turn off or peel back ward saves, like the Bone-Tithe Shrieker, like the Khorne artifact, Argath King of Blades, like the Nurgle Demon Prince, Heroic Action, like Dread Scythe Harridans in their sub-faction, and so on and so forth. All those things will turn off ward bodyguards now, which makes things a lot better. It's actually quite a buff. It's not a huge buff because, usually those things will be in front of the heroes that are bodyguarding anyways. But it means when you stick out like a Rune Father to fight, if you turn off his ward save and his bodyguard, he just splats on the ground instantly.
Right.
It means that Seraphon, if you can get into their slan past their screens, aren't just going to pass off 10 to 20 wounds onto their temple guard for free if you can turn off their wards.
And Croak. Because Croak was...
And Croak as
that's
well.
That's how you keep Croak alive. And that's another reason why... Anyway.
So it is limited use case, but the armies that have access to turning off wards are going to really feel that benefit more into things like Fire Slayers, which they already shit on already because they're so ward reliant, and into Seraphon.
And Ludivicus points out the Starseer spell for Seraphon. That's what I thought Matthias was going to say. And then also there's a Lore of the Swamp. There's actually a lot of... There's more than most people realize. And I don't know if you remember, Matthias, but remember I used my guy to turn off your Great Unclean One, and then I charged Kragnos in there into your Great Unclean One. It just completely... He got popped like a giant zit. Is right on. Yeah,
there's a lot of anti-ward in the game these days. You can just keep the list going on forever and ever.
It's true.
And so it's just impactful. And then things that add to your ward save will add to bodyguards. And that's the All-Stars game with Carson. There's an artifact in OBR that adds to your ward save. So it now adds to your bodyguards. Your 2-up becomes a 1-up. Which is actually kind of bad, as we learned. Yeah. But
that's crazy.
It's just what's also really nice about this is they finally cleaned up the wording of bodyguards. Like, it was such a weird rules question. It's like, am I allowed to make a ward save, then bodyguard, then make a word save? Or, like, do this specific wording? It's a ward save now. We're not going to worry about this stupid wording anymore.
I agree. So, and I like what Keith
that.
said. I wonder if in 4.0 they will decide that they are sick of tweaking bodyguard rules, so heroes just join units.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, me and Carson have been talking about it for a while now, and as I've said in the past, I think it'll be better in AOS because there's no toughness, so you don't have to deal with the like what happens when you're doing attacks into units, and you have to remain with you have to deal with the remaining toughness of different levels.
Anything to add, Carson?
No, not really.
So
I'm glad to see it simplified for sure. So
yeah.
So you have a 1-up bodyguard in OBR?
You could
not automatically. So what happened was basically he has a 2-up pass. You have a 2-up pass off to a Mortis guard if they're within 3 inches.
Yeah.
I think you took an artifact, was it?
Yeah. Unholy Lodestone.
Unholy Lodestone adds 1 to your.
No, I understand, rolls. And so it just interacts with that rule. But so now you have that one
automatic pass off.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
It's actually bad though, because like the thing is
you can't control it, right?
Yeah, you can't control it, and someone can really use that against you, because like sometimes what people like to do is they say, oh, your entire unit of a Mortis guard, or at least most of it, is within 3 inches of this hero. I'm just going to dump everything into this hero, which is on like a 4-up instead of a 0-up, because Mortis guard are a super tough nut to crack. So if I can dump it all into this weaker hero instead, and it's just like infinitely getting passed off into the Immortus guard, like I'm elated to be doing that.
Yeah, generally if the original unit isn't dying, you want to split the damage so it reduces the efficiency.
For sure. Yeah. Ludivicus says, correct me if I'm wrong, you still have to take your mandatory bodyguard ward in factions where it's mandatory, so can't use
that's true too.
Normal ward.
If it's mandatory, like for Grayseers or for Mortis Guard, you don't get your ward at all.
Wait, what?
Or you don't get to use your normal ward, rather.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think that's big for the Screaming Bell.
It is. Well, but then like it's always
never did though.
It's always been that way.
Instead of making
I see.
No, I learned recently that it actually is an or ability if you have a ward save. It's really weird. Specific wording. We don't need to get into it here.
Right. That's fair. Okay, moving along.
Moving on.
Yeah.
The Battle Shock phase FAQ, they're just cleaning up an edgelord case where you could like break coherency, then use that broken coherency to remove models. Those models remove fight on death, so you could squeeze out extra fight on death.
Right.
They just remove that. The spells, spell ignores don't stack, which is particularly important now that there's a generic battalion to add a spell ignore.
Very true.
Magic Hunters, that's the change they included before, drain their power. This is all stuff we've covered. Dawnbringers, that's things we've covered. Twisted, these are all things we've covered. Blah, 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 blah. Cities of Sigmar would be the first things that we've changed. So these FAQs we've actually seen before. Las Vegas Open first used these ones.
Right.
And there was kind of an understanding that because they were working closely with the rules writers, they were just going to put these into the book. So it's nice to see these here.
Yeah.
Talia Vadra's Rally only works in combat. Pontifex Zenestra cannot double stack, particularly double stack damage, thank goodness. The big one is that the Command Corps' dispatch spies abilities can only be done once per turn, right? No, that's just per issue. Never mind. This is a different thing.
Okay. So...
Oh, good. So then City of Sigmar didn't... the Command Corps really didn't get a big nerf, so... Ooh.
Well, the change about this, though, is that if you have 2 command cores, you only still get 1 kick at the can to ignore the command. So it's not a 75% chance that you're going to, make someone ignore their command. It's instead it's always a 50-50 on a 4-up.
Yeah, so I feel like that's how it should have been from the beginning.
Right.
And it's still kind of crazy that it's board wide.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that didn't change.
Me too.
That's the big thing. That's like... Honestly, Command Corps got out 30 points up is still takeable because they have a board-wide 4-up fizzle, and they still got their heals and everything.
I think they wanted to be very careful nerfing like the main thing that people were scared about with cities, which was like the Fusilier block, mortal wounding something to death,
Right.
and like other good tools that they had. So
yeah. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to pull a Gets or some other armies where they just like they make them kind of rough. You know, it kind of ruins a lot of the fun. Like there's still a new army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The last change they did was Wildcore Hunters, instead of needing to be wholly within terrain, just have to be all of the models are within an inch of a terrain feature, which means they can get their extra rend next to like impassable now, which actually makes them really decent shooting because they're almost always going to have extra rend, and they went down 10 points, so we'll probably see them a little bit more. There, thumbs up.
and they got dogs.
Hey, got dogs! Yay!
Saw the Zeech change already. We saw the Fire Slayers changes already. We saw the Idena changes already. No, sorry, we didn't see the Sweeping Blows yet.
Right. So
Looks like they just cleaned up the wording on it.
I think so. Here, let me. So when this unit is picked to fight, you can
Oh,
select
right.
Sweeping Blows.
The change they did here was it used to be that you could put them in combat with both a 1-wound unit and like a monster and put like bonus attacks.
Right.
at
Now you have
damage
to
too.
pick. I see.
Yeah.
I
So they
see.
removed that weird abuse.
That
kit.
was just another edgelord thing, but okay.
Yeah. And then for Lumineth Realm Lords, this is a question that came up a lot in the past.
It really did.
Because some people are interpreting this as like no means yes, which is understandable. It's really weird. But basically what they're saying is in the past, Lumineth players were saying like, hey, this says I'm automatically casting this spell with a casting value of 10. Is the spell successfully casted? And if it's Blizzard, it's a casting value of 12. It says no, it's not successfully casted. But people were then asking if you can add Primal Dice to it because they're wondering if you can combine these two things. And so this little italicized bit at the bottom is the important note that just says, like, you can start the casting roll at 10 and then modify it. That's fine. What they're saying no to is, does automatically cast a spell mean automatically successfully cast a spell?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is no.
Obviously, like, did people really need to be said? This reminds me of the, what do you call it? Do you remember the one from AOS 2, Matthias, where it was like, if my opponent concedes and then I go on to like win the game, or if I'm winning on point, if my opponent concedes, basically, can someone concede and still win the game? Because
when
they're
ahead in points.
they're ahead on points, and it was just like, oh my god, people, like, who is playing this game?
That sounds like a French person thing. Just gonna throw shade to French AOS team.
Just throw it to our friends over there. Yep. Moving right along.
File paper change is the one we saw. Glotkin, they're just fixing up the wording, so that's nothing new.
Cool. Nighthaunt
then
change
it's
is the same.
Ogres.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the Ogre's change is just something that has been ruled this way for a very long time. I'm just so happy that I don't have to go up to the TO before every single tournament. Be like, hey, so this is how wounds are caused, and this is like the wording of this.
Yeah.
Is this how this works? Now, where there's actually an FAQ to back it. And basically what this is so Avalanche of Flesh is a battle tactic where you just have to cause 10 or more mortal wounds with the impact charges, or impact hits that you get on charging. The key word is caused here. So if you negate these wounds with a ward, does that subtract the amount that you're counting towards the battle tactic? And the answer is no. So the battle tactic does not care about wards. It doesn't care about overkilling whatsoever. It's just how many mortal wounds did you hand over to your
What
opponent?
was the roll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the roll? Because it's a simultaneous roll. It's not one at a time.
It is. This is a good choice. I'm glad they kept it. Not
I'm
even
so
just for
happy.
you. Yeah, I bet you're really happy.
It's just because it's just exhausting. Like,
it's so exhausting. Yeah.
without there being a backing of an FAQ, it really does seem like I'm trying to gotcha an opponent, but I'm just like, these are the rules. Like, this is just how it works.
I don't agree that it seems like you're trying to gotcha, because like you originally, like, I read it out when we were doing a battle report. This might have been in between rounds. And originally you were like, oh no, I don't think so. And then I was the one who actually said, no, it says caused. Caused means, did you roll the dice? And so like even as coming from someone like I was playing against you in that battle report, and I was going, no, like this is, you absolutely get it, right? But anyway, it's a great ruling. Orc War Clans, we've already talked about all that stuff.
Nothing new till Skaven.
Skaven. Change the keyword restriction to clans, pestilence, priests, including unique units. This helps Scabric. This basically makes Scabric be able to take a prayer. I was arguing that he should have been able to just take it anyway, but this is another cleanup where you don't have to explain anything. It's just he gets it. So this is great. Great change. Add the then the battle. Yeah, the
nothing new till Daughters of Cain. Then
Daughters of Cain.
I believe this is new. They worded the Seraphon bite ability to be before models are removed from play, so you can't remove models out of an inch and then they lose their bite. And people are like, well, this looks like the Daughters of Cain turned to Crystal, but it's technically worded a little different, so you couldn't like one-for-one transfer it.
Right.
So this FAQ is really nice, and actually this is a decent buff to melee snakes.
Cool.
Because now they can go into hordes and always get their mortal wounds out. So that's actually pretty nice.
That's awesome. That's great. Flesh Eater Courts, a lot of stuff.
This is all new.
This is all new stuff. And there's one thing that like I wish they had said, but they didn't. But going through it, if an enemy unit is in combat with Ushuran for more than one turn, can the Shroud Cage fragment ability reduce that unit's bravery characteristic by more than one? Of course, because it says until the end of the battle. Like this didn't need to be asked, but people are checking in on stuff. This is not the most debated one, not even close. The most debated one that they didn't include was, can the unit of Crypt Guard basically give it to Usharan, because, you know, like if you pick from any one model, then he can't get within 3 inches, but it says of the unit. And if you look deeply into the rules, you definitely can do it. But it's the most debated thing on the Flesh Eater Courts page, which is the only reason why I wish, like, I know that they look at that, because I know so many people asked it, and I know that they just looked at it and go like, well, no, the answer is in the rules. But then sometimes they answer stuff that doesn't need to be answered, like this. So, and sometimes they don't. So I wish they would just, if they're going to do, you know, some of them, they should just do all of them like that, but whatever, right? When setting up a replacement unit using the summon loyal subjects battle trait, do I need to factor in the half of the models in that unit that count as having been slain for the purposes of battle shock? No. This is another one that whatever.
The only important one really is that Usharan can't pick the same delusion to stack delusions.
That's true. Yeah.
Everything else in here.
Everything else was just like
whatever.
Obvious, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We can kind of move on from it.
Cool. I think so too. By the way, they did clean up the wording on the Crypt Guard, but they didn't make it so that it settled this absolutely ridiculous debate that's going on. Anyway,
they removed multiple Crypt Guards stacking.
Exactly. They made it so like no one like Alex would make jokes about it, but no one ever was going like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna have a 0 up, whatever, you know. Anyway, what's the next? We were talking about
Seraphon. They changed mystical and forging.
That's so what it was.
You can't modify if you add rend later on. It still sets to no rend.
Yeah, this is actually a big deal. This is actually a big buff, and I don't. Moving right along. Nice. I mean, like, why didn't they buff the coalesce spells, for God's sake? Anyway, whatever. Okay.
And then the last thing is OBR. They just cleaned up the wording on Catacros's command because it could be interpreted as a pulse, could be interpreted as an aura, but they just made it more clearly that it is a pulse. I need to reread this actually.
No, it's an aura. It's while they're only within 24 inches.
It's an aura, which is what it should have been.
It actually changed because like a lot of rulings were that it was a pulse in the past.
Right.
And for those that aren't aware, the difference between a pulse and an aura, a pulse is basically like at the time of issuing this command ability, everyone within 24 inches gets this thing until the next hero phase, or until my next hero phase. Whereas an aura is just you have to actually be within 24 inches of Catacross. So if like something moves out of it, they no longer get the benefits. If Catacross dies, they no longer get the benefits. So
that's always what I played it as, but
yeah,
you always played it as an aura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That if you walk out of range, it's gone.
That clearly seems to be the intent, but I'm glad that they cleaned it up too. Yeah.
And there you have it.
Wow. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy overall. I think it's actually, I think it's a really good battle scroll.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. Any complaints?
I wanted them to put in the FAQ for fact that the Chalice of Usharon can't put back 3 wound models for the price of 1 wound. That's definitely going to be abused for a while.
Yeah. Yep. Though to be fair, like, and someone else pointed this out when they didn't include the whole bodyguard, crypt guard thing rather, is that FEC still have their 4-week FAQ to come.
Right.
So we might get some additional cleanup, and I hope we will. You know, like, a lot of people didn't get FEC until it came out, and it came out like what, 2 or 3 days after
Recently,
yeah, this FAQ. So there's you know, there's hope that they will still add some of the stuff. Like, they didn't talk about crypt horrors in Hollowmourne. I think that definitely needs addressing, because I don't think their intention is the way it's ruling. And for those that don't know, the in Hollowmourne, your knights get +1 damage on the charge, right? So how that interacts with the crypt horrors is when they roll a 6, they get their damage set from 2 to 3, which nullifies the +1 damage because it happens afterward. So it takes away from some of their value, and I don't think that was on purpose. I really don't, because, like, there's, you know, like, this faction is about buffing this unit, and then to have it, like, be less impactful on the main unit it's supposed to buff seems like a mistake to me. But there's other stuff too that needs cleaning up and additional things answered. Ladificus says, I will refrain from complaining due to time. I'm going to complain for you. My only complaint about this, like, that's actually legitimate, is the unneeded nerfs to Gloomspite Gits. I don't think they were a problem, and I think they nerfed, like, some of their most useful units, and they were already at like 48-50%, and they're going to go down even further, and I think that was completely unnecessary.
Justice for Scragrot.
Justice for, yeah, exactly. We're gonna go back to Justice for Gits. Hashtag Justice for Gits. Like, it's like we were on that for so long.
Pull out the resistance posters. And...
yeah, and yeah. But yeah, is there anything you guys? Oh, actually, I mean, real quick, we don't have a lot of time. We all need to go, I'm sure. But congrats to Matthias. You won Best General at Cake or Death. Look at that cute face. So you got your golden ticket to WCW. So this is your second year making it there out of 3 total years in its existence. That's a pretty good.
My only regret is last year I didn't get it.
My only regret is not doing it every year it's ever happened.
Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you're gonna be sitting at a 66% rate. That's pretty good. And the other person was Matthew Beasley. He made it as well under best overall.
I beat him game 5 and he's still coming with me.
Yeah. Although he was pretty awesome the first year you were in WCW and one of your main training partners, and he's a friend of the show and whatnot. So congrats to him. He beat out Eric by 5 points, and like, obviously Eric's my boy, close friend and whatnot. But I guess, but I think Eric did lose to Matt, right? So that feels, you know what I mean? It would be kind of annoying if, and I know it's happened to Eric in the past, where he's beaten the person who then went on to beat him for best overall. It's like, what? Yeah. But yeah, congrats to both of you. It was well deserved. I heard it was a great tournament, and Yeah,
Dale did a great job putting it together, and he worked super hard to make it as seamless as possible. And I
that doesn't sound like
love
Dale,
him
but
for it.
that great job. Just kidding. Great job to Dale, and and to everyone, and thanks to all the people who provided terrain and mats and helped set up. I think Carson, did you help set up?
Yeah, I was there the day before helping Dale set up with Kenrick.
With Kenrick,
and then
so
a couple of us stayed behind and kind of helped them pack up as well. And I did bring some terrain, but
that's
it's
really
literally just
big.
one table. So.
That's big. Like that's it makes a huge difference. So thanks to everyone who helped out and worked on it.
Yep.
So
yeah,
And cake.
and cake.
And
I was going to ask actually. So one of the awards wasn't best sportsman for Dale's tournament. He does the dude award, which is basically like who is someone who made your weekend better. Or something like
cool.
that. So I had a question for Matthias, which is not who made your weekend better, but like what was your favorite moment of the weekend?
Ooh.
Oh my goodness! What was my favorite moment?
Winning best general.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't say when you win.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be when Matt Beasley rolled a miscast on his very first spell on his slan top of one.
Jeez.
No, that's so
Honestly,
mean.
the exact same thing happened to me at WCW. Literally, the slan on the first turn miscast, and I was like,
Ooh.
"That guy, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay."
Oh, that's good.
I don't know.
fun.
I think it was. I can't remember anybody's name, so I'm gonna have to pull it up. My game 2 opponent he's the Skaven player from Prince George.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that Robin?
I
Yes,
think it's Robin.
It is.
Yeah.
It's Robin. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite game. He was my favorite opponent, and like, he knows Skaven, and I like his list. It was a good list, and he played it well. And he's just like, I'm just gonna kind of come at you. That he did, and it was just kind of great fun.
That's the one with the double hell pit abomination, right?
Yeah, and I was fighting him, and both of his hell pits survived on one wound.
Oh.
It was just so annoying.
And by
It
the
was a
way,
good game.
we did a list review of Robin's thing, and I was telling Tommy
Yeah,
because Tommy also played him,
Yeah.
and so he was asking for advice on it, and I said maybe this guy I actually wronged Robin because, and that's the reason I knew his name, because I said maybe he doesn't know Skaven that well because he didn't even take an upgrade on either hell pit abomination, and you get one for free. And then I went and checked it, and it says at the beginning of the game,
You don't have to lock it in.
you don't have to
that's
lock
right.
it in. So I'm sorry. I never, because for me, it's always like, I'm taking tough and sinews. I'm only taking one.
It's the only rule where you don't
Yep.
write it down on your army.
And the nice thing about that in his list in particular is because he has two, he can deploy them not together and then just be like, okay, that's where I
true.
want tough and sinews. So that's what I actually mentioned to Tommy once I went and got my book. I was like, he's going to, depending on deployment, is probably where he's going to choose it. Or maybe like, and you could also like say like, well, I can give like an auto crazy amount of mortal wounds like you did one time, Matthias, on your Avalanche of Flesh or something like that if you're going into like a lot of like, chaff and whatnot. But I mean, it's mostly going to be the tough and sinews, of course. But anyway, yeah, that was a very cool list. I totally agree with you. And I've heard he's a very good player as well. And I always knew he was a good guy because he plays Skaven. So yeah,
There you go.
I say it every time and it's always true, Actually, then there is Matthias. So there are exceptions to every rule, but love you, Matthias. Oh man. No, all Skaven players are good people.
I need to play rats again to become heroes of the people.
You do. That's true. I mean, we've all been saying it, right? I'm like, I used to be a special snowflake, like I'm the Skaven guy, but like very quickly it was just like, oh, you're playing Skaven, we have this bond now, and I want the more the better, because GW needs to realize how freaking awesome this army is and that they should have refreshed them like 10 years ago. But the meme keeps getting funnier from Interstellar, so I will leave it at that.
All right.
Is there anything more that either of you wants to say before we call it?
Let's let these people out.
Let's let the dogs out. thanks to everyone for joining us, and to Matthias for coming on and really helping us get through it much quicker, I think, than we otherwise would have been able to with your expertise and whatnot. Congrats again for winning Best General. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Your comments were, I'm sorry, we had a lot to get through, so I wasn't able to, read as many comments as I read them all, but I wasn't able to necessarily point at as many of them. They were hilarious as usual. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.